Good evening. How you guys doing? Good to be with you again. Doing this crazy, weird thing we do 3 times a week. For those who are new here, this is Anonymous Live. Welcome. This is been going for about a month. It's 5 weeks now, I think, is as of today. We do these 3 times a week where we have a 1-800 number, internationally toll-free, and we just take callers from all over the world who have something they want to get off their chest or share about difficult experience. We've had a lot of severe stories being shared here, and I'm just amazed at what this is turning into. It's developing into this beautiful community of people who just listen, and, we don't care here what you believe or what you think about the world. We just care about people. And we understand here that people from all walks of life go through things that we all can learn from. And so we just kind of band together here and take callers for about 3 hours till roughly midnight Central Time. It's been a beautiful thing. Before we dive in today, I do want to highlight a couple of things. First of all, I want to take this chance to, since we've been going for about 5 weeks now, I do want to highlight a couple things that have been going on in the community. Because as I mentioned, this is it's developing very quickly into a community and not just a live stream. It actually kind of took me by surprise, because when I started this, I didn't expect that we would have this Discord now and all this stuff, all these ways for people to connect outside of the live streams. But it's amazing to see. Like, the Discord, I think, has about 500 members in there already. So it's growing quickly, and these are high quality people, high quality members. So I was torn between calling them members or people, because I'd like to believe all people have some high quality to them. But these are not just usual Discord members. These are people in the Discord that really want to be there for each other. And some people just come in there and hang out. And there's a bunch of cool features in there now. Like, we have an open mic channel now where one person can get up and a bunch of other people can come in and listen. So if you have like song you want to share, or some jokes or poetry or whatever it is, people are using it in fun ways like that. And then there's different support channels where people can go in and say, like, I'm having a really hard day, or XYZ happened to me and I'm not sure what to do. And there's just loads of people in this community that it's turning into an extension of this live stream. That's really cool. But while we're on that, I wanted to just highlight something that's been going around the community, especially in our amongst our mods in the Discord chat we have going with the mods. The importance that we not trauma bond in this place. Trauma bonding can be really dangerous. We do want, we want to make sure that these places we're offering to people to come connect and talk about hard things is not being used to prolong any suffering. If you're struggling with something, go in there, share about it, be real. But the purpose of this place is to encourage positive change in people's lives, and not to I haven't seen any trauma bonding personally, but I just want to reinforce that the importance to all of us here. It should be that we use this as a place to uplift one another and give ideas, and just be there to listen and be empathetic, be good people. But it's obvious it can be a slippery slope. So I did want to just highlight that importance, and I hope everybody's on the same page with me there, because that's important to us. And I thought that was worth mentioning. In other news, a couple other quick announcements. I have decided I'm going to move forward with a very small number of life coaching sessions, which I kind of teased last time we did this. I was kind of thinking about doing it, but it was such a departure for me. I'm very slowly dipping my toe into this water because, quite frankly, I've never done life coaching. It's completely unregulated here in the United States, which I actually have some opinions about. But I'm going to be very specifically looking for a very small number of topics to assist certain people with, and a very small number of clients to take on for people who may have been enjoying this place, this thing we do here, but want to go deeper than just like a 30, 40 hour long phone call, 30, 40 minute phone call on average. We're having about half-hour phone calls. So if you've been getting something out of these and you'd be curious what something deeper might look like, there's an email address in the video description. I'll flash it on the screen here. This comes directly to me. Some people have emailed this already, and I've not had a chance to respond to all of them. Please know that if you do email this email address, I will be following up to determine what specifically it is you are looking for life coaching through in your life. And it's not to diminish or compare anybody's problems. It's simply to just make sure that I'm not taking on clients that I don't think I could actually help, or understand at the very least. Because again, this is so new to me. There's a handful of things I think I could be helpful with. We've had a lot of callers calling in, asking about, career advice, developmental things, people in their 20s looking for developmental advice or support, and people calling in, going through divorce, people calling in, trying to figure out how to deal with close relationships that are people they believe to be psychopaths, like narcissists, borderline personality, histrionic personality. And again, I just want to be very clear that I'm not a psychologist. This would still, even going deeper with life coaching, would still not be a substitute for psychotherapy or counseling. But if that seems interesting to anybody, I will be doing a very small run of those. And then lastly, we have a new phone system in place, finally, because up until now, if you called in, the phone just rang and maybe I answered, or maybe you got the voicemail. And a lot of people were confused about how to use the phone system. And so now there is a proper phone system in place, finally, with some instructions. If you call the number, you're now greeted by a phone menu where you can kind of get some additional information if you're not sure what you're getting yourself into. We also kind of more explicitly define the purpose of the voicemail. That purpose being literally nothing. There's literally no purpose to the voicemail, but it's there if you want to leave a message. So yeah, several things I wanted to highlight there. But after that, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and open up these phone lines. We've already got a bunch of callers calling in. Also, I believe we finally fixed the call waiting issue, where when people would call in at the beginning of their call, you'd hear all the calls beeping. I think we fixed that as well. So this should be a much smoother episode today. Here's hoping. But I will say, with the new phone system in place, it might take you a little bit longer to get your call actually into the queue. So you might have to anticipate the times where we're accepting callers like by another 10 seconds or so. So maybe take a second to get familiar with the menu. I have no idea how that's going to impact the speed of our callers calling in. But with that, we're going to take our first caller. Here we go. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hey, Julian.
Hi. What you want to talk about?
Life expectancy. Sorry, I'm somebody who's around your age and whatnot, so I had my decent brief with just alcoholism and just hardcore depression just after, I don't know if anybody else in this little room here understands it, but I was ex-military in the infantry for a bit.
Okay.
And, sorry, do you have something to follow with?
No, I'm just listening, taking some notes.
Okay. Well, during that brief time, had a decent relationship with somebody, and it was just the best thing ever. But she was very insecure and a very jealous person. So when I went away to the military to train and stuff, she assumed that I was always cheating, which clearly, with paychecks from the Department of Defense, kind of, negated that. But that just built up for her something else, and 10 years of that went by. Now I'm out of the military, looking forward to maybe dating, and I don't know how to beat that struggle, if you know what I'm talking about. Trust issues in general.
Issues. Okay, so you got yourself into a relationship where you weren't really trusted, and so now you've got some trust issues in turn.
Yeah, and it's very confusing because she was a very attractive lady. So I don't really, I mean, I guess that's for a lot of insecure people who are very pretty, that's kind of a thing that happens, I guess.
What was your experience like in the military?
Well, I was infantry, so it was nitty gritty.
Right. Do you want to talk about that or no?
What specific parts exactly?
Well, I guess when somebody calls
I'm open.
Go ahead.
I'm open to anything. It's just a lot of it. Even in the military, they talk down and they kind of beat you down. And half the time, it's kind of a joke when you're talking about how sad you are or anything like that. But they actually kind of beat you down to make it to where you have to actually bottle your shit up. Oh, right. Sorry. Do I not have to? Should I not use profanity?
It's not a big deal. I see what you're saying. So you said you led with you said life expectancy was the first keyword I heard. Are you okay? Are you in good health?
Yeah, I'm good. Life expectancy, I mean, like, I'm trying to look forward to doing other things since I'm out of the military. It's just that part of my life has broken me down so much, and I joined the military at 17, so that's the only kind of world I know.
I see.
So
it's like expectations.
Hard to break away from it.
I see. So you're dealing with maybe some expectations. Would that be it?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
I would say so.
And you said you were an alcoholic. Are you still considering yourself an alcoholic?
I mean, yeah. You never stop being an alcoholic, in my opinion.
That's what they tell you in AA.
You struggle through it.
I guess I'm asking if you're still abusing it.
AA is kind of a little too religious for me, so I don't delve into that.
Right. Are you still abusing the alcohol? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I don't abuse it. I have my beers.
Okay.
That's for sure.
Okay.
Well, that's the only thing that, like, I'm saying, like, life expectancy wise, because things are looking up. But when I try to think about the good that's happening, it always gets shut down by my inner voice.
Right. I'm really sorry that you were hurt in that way by your partner. It seems like you were.
I was in it to win it, that's for sure.
Sounds like that was not a fun time for you. Are you doing okay now? How long ago was that?
Sorry, what?
How long ago was that you were getting accused of cheating by your partner?
Well, that relationship was so off and on because of everything, but we broke up, I think, 10 months ago, maybe. We got back together after 4 years, just because we thought we both had changed. I did for the better for a little bit. She did for a little bit, but we ended up tearing each other apart again. So that tells you a story there itself, I guess.
Tell me about your former partner. What brought you guys together and what drew you apart? I mean, aside from her thinking you were cheating, what drew you to her and what drove you apart?
She's just the smartest lady I ever met. She was equal to me. That's something that is really hard to find. Because even in the infantry, like when I joined the Army, I got a very good score on my ASVAB. And when I told them I wanted to join the infantry, they got really confused. They're like, not very many smart people join this, right? And I was just like, I mean, yeah, but clearly I'm like a 135-pound guy. I'm not scary at all, so I joined the infantry to become scary.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at your story. I'm laughing at the way you're putting this.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of how I meant it to be put.
I appreciate the candor.
Like a $1.45 soaking wet.
It's refreshing, actually. I like how you're thinking about this. So, yeah, hearing you talk, I get the impression you're a confident person. I get the impression
I try to be.
You believe in yourself. I think that's good. I think it's good to believe in yourself. I'm hearing maybe that you might be very type A. potentially, not in a bad way, but that you're very driven. And I'm wondering if
I'm not very certain what type A even means. I'm sorry.
well, you seem like a go-getter. You seem like somebody that you set your mind to something and you go do it. And you're very
Oh yeah, I'm not shy that way at all.
Right,
Now
right.
I'm just kind of terrified.
You just kind of put
You know what I
yourself
mean?
out there, and you seem like the kind of person that doesn't really care what others think of you. In an honest way. You're very honest. It seems, and very forthcoming.
I like to be an educator.
So I'm wondering if maybe the person you were with, that you developed some trust issues with, maybe they were too much like you. You said yourself they were a lot like you, and if you got two type A people, you know, that can be quite explosive. Would you say your relationship was explosive?
Oh, if only you knew. Nitroglycerin doesn't have any game on this.
How old are you?
30.
You're 30. Okay. Yeah, I mean,
She is 31 now, I think. She's a little bit older than me.
are you over her?
Honestly, I'll never be over that lady.
I see.
We live in the same town. We work basically 300 yards away from each other.
Right. Yeah, that's
It's a
really
little difficult.
That sounds really hard. You have friends you've
I
opened
have
up
an
to about this?
imprinting problem.
Imprinting problem.
A little bit.
Do you have?
She impressed me so much that kind of stuck, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. I get that vibe.
And now I have certain ladies who are interested in me, and I don't even know how to register them flirting with me. They could be doing it, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I do that sometimes, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't sound like you're fully over her, ready to move on yet. Maybe there's something that you're trying to figure out. Maybe that's why you're calling in here tonight. Maybe there's something about yourself you're trying to learn or grow past.
Got the input for that, I guess.
Well, I mean, we haven't even been talking for 10 minutes yet, so I don't.
That's true.
I've got some thoughts, but I'm very hesitant.
My mind runs 1,000 miles a minute.
I see.
Yeah, a little bit.
Do you think you could have developed? I mean, I'm only asking this not because I sense it on you. I actually don't sense it at all. But I've had a lot of callers calling in here that are ex-military, and I've got a bunch of military family, and I know that a lot of people can come away from the military with some stuff that they struggle with, like PTSD and whatnot. Do you think you carried anything back like that from the military, like PTSD or any kind of?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I spent 6 years in the infantry. I mean, I work at a place that supports the military, and half the time I have to wear this special little uniform that specifically shows I'm military, and
right.
People come up to me and try to shake my hand and thank me for my service, and half the time I'm very conflicted. Just like, I'm not trying to offend a lot of listeners or whatnot, but in my time of service, a lot of the stuff that I had to deal with in the infantry was not good. A lot of the dudes I knew did a lot of bad stuff, and I don't like it when people shake your hand for it a little bit.
Right.
Not every soldier does that, but I mean, it has affected me very drastically.
Well, I do want to thank you for your service. I know you have some conflicted feelings about that, but it was a brave thing you did, going over there to be in the infantry wherever you were. I don't know where you were. You probably shouldn't say, for the sake of anonymity, where you were. But
yeah, a little bit. My buddies wouldn't be happy about that.
Were you diagnosed with PTSD?
Yeah. I kind of didn't believe it until I started waking up with just night sweats and not even remembering the dreams I had.
Right. I'm really sorry to hear
remember
that.
Waking up freaked out for some reason. Most of it doesn't really affect me. I'm the kind of person who I'm a logical person, not so much an emotional person.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's part of my relationship issues. I don't know. But it never really affected me because at the same time, after my brief stint over there, well, I guess the 13 months isn't brief, but whatever. Most of my military career was training the newbies, the recruits and whatnot, red phasers and all that stuff. Trained him how to shoot, all that jazz. But at the same time, I was trying to prepare them for what I went through. Because, like, when I first enlisted, I was engaged to somebody who... You know what? Actually, that's a good point to bring up. I was also cheated on my first fiance.
Your first...
While I was away at basic combat training.
You got
with
cheated on?
Somebody else who was... Sorry, what?
You got cheated on?
Oh, countless times.
Oh, wow. Well, that's some new information. So not only do you have PTSD, but you have been cheated on multiple times. And then this last partner of yours is accusing you of cheating. Are you the cheating type? Have you ever cheated?
I don't even know how to build up the courage to even try to do that. I'm a very old-fashioned guy.
I see.
I have to date somebody for a couple of months even to even feel comfortable taking my shirt off with them in a swimming pool.
So you've never cheated. Is that right?
Not once.
Not once.
I would hate myself.
Yeah, so that must have really stung when your girlfriend accused you of cheating. Must have felt like she didn't know you at all.
Just a bit.
Yeah, I'm really sorry.
Even though, like, background history for her, she went to school with my family, and she was best friends with my sister in high school. So she knows how my family is.
Okay. How's your family? What does that mean?
We're very old-fashioned.
Okay. In what ways?
We don't do the whole one-night stands. We don't do... I don't really know anything else to compare to that.
Okay, I get the point. You're married one and done. Loyalty's a big deal.
Exactly.
Make
one
something
and done.
of yourself.
In it to win it. Type ideal.
Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. I guess you mean old-fashioned in every sense, it sounds like.
Pretty much. If it isn't broke, do not fix it.
Have you read the book Tribe? I'm going to grab it here from my shelf. Are you familiar with that book?
I am not. If you pull it from your thing, I can look at what the thing is, though.
It's by
I'm
Sebastian.
Still watching the live.
Sebastian Junger. It's a very thin book. I'm holding it up right here. You might not see it on the actual stream for a few seconds because it takes the stream a bit to keep up with the live call, but very thin book. It's like 115 pages, I want to say. And it's it's basically, it's written for, from the perspective of people reintegrating into society as civilians after coming back from being in the military. It was an eye-opening read for me. I've never been in the military, but I have a bunch of family who's been military, and so I read it to kind of better understand some veteran family members I have, and I wonder what that book would mean to you.
What's the philosophy on it?
Well, I think you should just read it, because I don't want to do this book no justice in a short synopsis, but it's very short, as I stated. It's very, very short. You could read it in like a day and a half, maybe a day if you're a quick reader.
Was it like one of those small little child books?
A child, but definitely not a child book. Again, like I'm not even military, so I don't want to butcher this book for you. I mean, it would
have killed your creativity. I'm telling you what.
Right, but it does an amazing job of just of summing up what the experience is like reintegrating as a civilian, and I'm mentioning it because you're dealing with a lot of conflicting feelings on your service in the military
and civilian.
Yeah, and I wonder what you would get out of that book. I mean, I got a bunch out of it, having not even been military. Maybe you'll get nothing out of it, but it wasn't even written for people like me. It was written for people like you.
Well, I'm not having so much problems with the military. Everything I did in the military is fine. Just being a civilian, that's my issue.
I see.
I'm in like year 6, maybe. I got out in 2017, and I'm still not getting it.
Right. Well, it might take you a long time to process what happened to you in the military and what your service meant, and seeing the things you didn't approve of.
I know definitely what it meant. I just, at this point, it feels like, how's this? My life's goal when I was like 8 years old. Everyone says, what do you want to be as an adult? And they have all this, like, you know, like astronaut or president. Like, I just wanted to be a soldier.
You knew
and
that?
I did that. I knew.
That's
it
pretty
was
respectable.
not a question of if or when, it was just when. And as soon as I was 17, I took these papers to my dad and was just like, hey, do you care if I join the military? And he immediately signed them and said, yeah, sure, get the fuck out of my house.
Wow. Verbatim, huh? Literally said that?
I literally said that, yeah.
Wow. Well, I mean, so let's get back to your girlfriend. That was the reason for your call. I cannot give you relationship advice. I care too much about your life. I don't want to mess up your life. But I'm happy to.
God, trust me, you couldn't do that any more than I could. It's fine.
Well, still, I do. I respect what this is enough to not give you explicit advice. But I'm happy to explore what's on your mind with you.
Are you sure about that? I tried doing the whole. What is it? The whole. How do you like your eggs thing with my lady?
Right. Well,
remember that skit you did? Didn't work out so well for me there, Julian.
Jog my memory.
Like what? How you like your eggs?
I'm just messing with you. Yeah, of course I know it.
Okay, I was gonna say, Jesus Christ.
Well, I mean, are you? You said you're not over this girl. Are you convinced she's? Are you convinced things are over? Or are you holding out hope that you might get back together? That was actually a question from the chat that I pulled. I am
always holding out hope. Like I said, I don't abuse the alcohol anymore, but I am drinking right now.
Well, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with a drink as long as you're not hurting yourself. I mean, slippery slope.
I ain't drinking straight whiskey. I'm just having a couple beers.
Yeah. Well.
Trying to stay in the chipper mood. Feel like my emotional compass is broken.
Do you have counseling?
Sorry, what?
Do you have a counselor?
Oh, that's also another dark gray area. I had a counselor maybe 2 years ago. Sorry. And things were working out great. This is the first time I had a therapist who had the same energy and mindset as me.
Mm-hmm.
And 6 months later, he got hit on by a semi, and he died.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah. So I kind of I hate starting from ground zero, if you know what I mean. And I had to go through enough therapists even just to get that guy, and then that happened, and oh boy.
That
was also
I'm really sorry
an emotional roller coaster.
I can imagine. That's really traumatic. You're talking to someone who knows what it's like to change therapists in the middle of a relationship. So I know that's not easy. I can only imagine if I were changing therapists because the therapist was killed. That's intense. But
that and also the military therapist you get always want to just find what's wrong with you so they can throw you out of the military.
Right. Right.
One flaw, and you're gone.
I do think, again, you're talking to somebody who believes counseling is beneficial for everybody, not just people with severe problems. But, you know, I guess
my problems, I wouldn't have even been able to join the military if they knew about my problems. That's the funny part.
See, you're somebody that seems to me like you should be in counseling. Not only because you're a human, and I think all humans should be in counseling at some point, at least pivotal points in their life. I think everybody should. I think it should just be more widely available. It's too restricted right now. There's too many. It's too expensive and too impractical, and there's too many bad therapists. It takes way too long to find a good one that you actually feel safe sharing with, and they have feel comfortable. Like you put it, like somebody that felt like they matched your energy and got you.
Yeah.
So
it's also hard to find somebody who's not like a lot of people, and I want to say that me and you are in the same generation. I think. Maybe
that's right. I was born '87. You seem like if you're in your 30s.
Oh no, you're my older brother's age. It's fine, but still, somebody who has the mindset. What's the best way to put this? Our generation was not as coddled. Like, my dad was the kind of guy, if you told him no, he'd slap you through a wall.
Interesting.
I guess. My dad's from England, so he got that Irish Catholic upbringing.
Okay. What would it take?
I'm like one of the first colonial offsprings of my family.
Oh, really? Wow.
Oh, yeah. It's fun growing up in certain spots in America with a British accent when people called you Pip and you didn't understand what the heck they're talking about until you watched South Park.
What would it take for you to get back in some therapy? What's holding you back, aside from starting over? I know you don't want to start over, but that seems kind of like saying you're not going to make breakfast again because you already made it yesterday.
Trust me, I could make a hella continental breakfast. That's no issue. It's just the fact that I don't think anybody else can make the same breakfast as me.
So you think you can fix all your problems
If
without
you get my drift.
Is that right?
No, I don't think I can fix my problems at all. If I could, they wouldn't be my problems.
So
the only thing I'm having a problem with is the fact that everything nowadays is pretty much really PC. No one's going to know what I'm talking about because I would try to bring up certain things in a certain manner, and it'd be too much of a gray area, I think, especially because if I go to a therapist, I definitely have to bring up the military stuff.
Yeah, well, a good therapist is going to see through all that and not judge you. A good one.
I don't think a lot of people know what it means to follow orders. Sometimes orders don't lead to the best results, just saying. And you can't really bring that up to a therapist because they're like built to deal with regular everyday problems. When you go to a military therapist or contact Military One Source, if anything, if you're dealing with military problems, because they're kind of out there. It's like trying to work with a threaded, like trying to put on a new drill bit on a threaded barrel, and then you find out it's rusted to no end.
Well,
those are soldiers. We're completely rusted.
You're calling in here, so I'm going to push back on you a little bit because I care about you. You're not correct. There is plenty of therapists who are there specifically for what you're talking about. Therapists that are there to relate with and help people that are veterans of the military. You can certainly find that. You might not be able to find it in your city, depending where you live. I don't know where you live, and I'd rather you not tell us because of the anonymity. But
yeah,
I'm pushing back on you because I care, and I hear you've got a real dilemma, and I think you would get a lot of value out of having that relationship restored in your life, even with a different person.
Are you kidding, dude? My ex is a fan of yours, so she probably is hearing this right now. So I don't. It's probably not going to be a thing.
I don't know what you mean by
that.
She's
been watching you since Jellyfish. How about that?
I don't understand where you're going with that.
We've been together for a very long time, so she has watched you because we've both been fans of your content. So, of course, with you doing this stuff, she's an empath, so she likes this stuff. She'd be watching this, but I don't really care. I don't know.
So what would make this a helpful call?
She would definitely know my voice.
What would make this? Well, we're disguising your voice a little bit. What would make this a helpful call for you?
Oh, that's cool. Sorry, what?
I'm just trying to figure out what would make this a helpful call for you. What's the? I don't want to just. I don't want to just shove ideas down your throat, of course, but I really do believe you should be in some counseling. I really do believe you should be in some. I mean, you told me that your counselor before was very helpful, and then they died suddenly. I mean, you've been through a lot. Sounds like you've lost a lot. I'm wondering what you think.
I lost 2 kids.
You lost 2 kids?
One was he was born in 2010. He got to 6 months old. His mom was very dependent on certain chemicals for her system, and she neglected him while he was sick. He caught pneumonia. He died while I was away at training.
Oh my goodness. Your
He
child.
was 6 months old.
I'm so sorry to hear about that. What was that? What must that have been like?
Oh, that I heard about while I was at training, so I didn't, what's the best way to say it? I didn't behave well with that information.
I'm so sorry.
The military, I was at a hotel and training and definitely locked myself in a room with a firearm.
I see.
Took a battle buddy of mine in the Army to talk some sense into me, which actually he kicked my ass, but still.
I'm so
and
sorry.
after that, with the lady I was telling you about that I spent 10 years with, the last time we were together, when we were actually together, we decided that we wanted to move to another state to start a new life together. But in the midst of moving, we found out she was about a month and a half pregnant. And when we got to the new place that we were moving to, after she was about 3 or 4.5 months pregnant, she got it terminated without me saying that it was okay. I just got to our apartment. She was in our shower with blood all over the floor, and the afterbirth just laying right there.
My goodness.
Yeah, she decided she didn't want to have it, which, even though she didn't discuss it with me, I guess, I mean, it's still her body, so can't get that upset, I guess, but it was still just a shocker to me.
Right. You thought you were going to have a baby, and then...
Yeah, I thought I was going to get a second chance of being a dad, dude. I was so excited.
Right.
And then that happened, and I turned into the biggest alcoholic that I've ever known.
So you guys were on the same page
about
having...
And that's apart from my dad.
You guys were on the same page about having a baby, and then she just changed her mind?
Yeah, a bit. I didn't know what happened at that point. One of my friends that we lived with said she came back from Planned Parenthood. I dropped her off from there, brought her back to here. Now she's asking for you. Came down there, and that was happening.
I see. I'm so sorry.
She was trying to... Yeah, it was something else. I mean, as you know, me being an old-fashioned guy, just seeing that just kind of, rocked my world a bit.
Right, I imagine that's
different. If you spend
than seeing
about 8 years with somebody who you want to spend your life with, why do that?
I imagine that's a much different feeling than seeing someone die on the battlefield.
Ooh, yeah. There's categories of that, I gotta say.
I can only imagine. I do want to...
Sadly to say, in the infantry, there are categories of death.
Right.
It gets... Oof. That actually brought my heart rate up a little bit just thinking about that. Holy shit. Wow, yeah. On the battlefield, I don't even know how to describe that one. I would say, it's probably 13% of that. Those are, the people who you serve with in the Army when you serve with them for so long, those are your brothers.
Right.
I've got a tattoo on my arm for at least 5 of the guys that I know who are dead now.
Do you feel you have...
Not easy to go through.
How do you feel you've reintegrated as a civilian?
I mean, not well, dude. I work with civilians, and I talk plainly about my time in the military service, and I work with somebody else who is also like, I don't know if you know different jobs in the military, but I was infantry, and I work with somebody who is a cavalry scout.
Okay.
Those guys go in, survey, and give us our orders. And he's telling me at work that apparently my generation has made his generation in the military bored because we did a lot of evil stuff. In my definition, it might have been just, as every other soldier says, very interesting details. But I say it's very evil stuff, and it made the Geneva Convention board their walls up that much more because soldiers felt that much more comfortable doing stuff overseas. And he said that made his job in his generation that much more boring.
For those who were just
that also kind of affects me as a soldier. Right. That's bullshit.
I'm really sorry to hear your story. I want to give a recap of your story just to make sure I'm on the same page with you, and also for people who may just be joining. If you are just joining,
go for it.
We're dealing with a caller who has shared about struggling with expectations in life. They are a former military, and they saw a bunch of stuff on the battlefield, and they've been diagnosed with PTSD. They've developed some alcoholic abuse tendencies and some trust issues from relationships that stemmed from a partner who recently accused them of cheating when the caller says he's never cheated in his life, and that accusation rocked his world, and they're no longer together, so they broke up. And so that was one part of the trust issues. And then years earlier, while the caller was in training for military, he discovered he was going to have a baby. He was going to be a father with his partner at the time, previous partner. And then the partner terminated the pregnancy. Did I get all that right?
I mean, yeah.
And you also mentioned you have been in and out of some therapy, and it took you a long time to find a therapist that you really felt you were getting value from. And then the therapist was killed by in a collision with a car, with a
head-on
truck.
Collision with a semi-truck.
With a semi-truck, right? And I hear it in your voice. You have seen a lot of serious trauma in your life. You've seen a lot of horrible things, and you've developed trauma. And I can hear it in your voice. You're tormented.
Well, I gotta say, that serious trauma definitely has helped out in the military. I went into the military and came out the exact same way.
Interesting. Yeah,
I had the same type of philosophy in my life. I think the same exact way. I just don't know what to do with it at this point, because at this point, with how it's been, I mean, I guess the best way to put it is I don't want to be like my grandfather, my father, or me back then.
Well,
the military was not the most pleasing person to be around. But then I met her, and then it was kind of nice. I don't get it.
Well, it could have been a number of things. We don't know why our relationships don't work the way we want them to. That's really complicated. That's why I'm kind of hesitating giving you relationship advice.
Oh, no, it's okay. Any of your advice, I won't take it like as a professional thing. I just need advice.
You're looking for ideas. I get that. I'm happy to spitball with you. You're calling in here asking us.
I'm glad to hear advice from the guy who took a bunch of crossbolts during a date. That was impressive, dude.
Crossbolts? What do you mean by that? I'm not following. What does that mean?
That one skit you did when you were just sitting there having a date with some lady and you took crossbolts to the chest and she was just like, are you not going to listen to me?
I see what you're saying.
That's how I feel anytime I try to flirt with somebody at this point. Are you kidding?
Gotcha. Well, there's a reson we made that.
I feel like I have a bunch of bolts in my chest.
All right. That is one of the videos that has some deeper meaning to it, for sure. But again, you're calling in here and you're asking all of us. I've pulled a couple questions from the chat. I'll pull a few more. Chat, if you can provide any feedback.
If they have any decent upbringing things, I would love to hear it, because I have bad. I don't know how to give myself input. That's all I have to say.
Are you, the chat's going to work on some feedback for you. They've already sent a bunch of stuff that might be helpful to go through after this call. But I do have a couple things that are running around my head for you. I'll highlight those first, and then I'll go to the chat. I've already highlighted the book Tribe by Sebastian Junger. Are you a reader? Can you get through a short book? It's written for people like you.
What? Because of the whole little children's book thing?
No, not because of the kids thing. Because of the military, and you said that you felt you were reintegrating as a civilian poorly.
Yeah.
Would you read that book?
It's kind of hard to come out of. I don't even know cars.
Would you read that book?
I grew up just reading. Well, I mean, the only thing I ever read that was actually a book growing up was Artemis Fowl.
Will you read this book?
That was actually a good book for me.
Should I just stop talking about the book, or will you read it?
Well, yeah.
Okay. I think it would be good for you to read it. I think it would.
Okay.
It's a short book.
You just don't give me any kind of relationship advice.
Well, I'm not going to give you relationship advice. The closest I'll get to giving you relationship advice is to recommend that you read the book Attached that we keep recommending to callers that sound like they're having the same relationship struggles you're having. There's a book called Attached. Are you familiar with that book?
You say Netflix?
No, it's by Adam Levine. Are you familiar with that book?
I'm familiar with Adam Levine just because of Lonely Island at this point.
Oh, sorry. Did I say Adam Levine? Sorry, Amir Levine.
Yeah. Amir. Okay. I was going to say, if you're talking about YOLO, I'm all game.
Adam Levine. Sorry, guys. Amir Levine. It's written by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller. Wow, that was hilarious. Oh, my gosh. Definitely not written by Adam Levine. You don't know. You don't know, Julian. I'm gonna put this. I'm gonna put Attached for you in the chat here. And if you go back and look through the chat for my comments, you'll see some Goodreads links.
All right.
I feel like
thank you for your time, and I'll give it to somebody else.
No,
all right?
Hey, I'm not done with you yet. Unless you're hanging up on me, I'm not hanging up on you. You can hang up if you want, but I'm still going.
I guess I'm not hanging up. I guess I'm just still having beers. What do you want from me?
Well, see, that's what I'm concerned about. Like, you keep saying you don't want to look here. I'm on the level with you. I get it. I get why you don't want to go to therapy again. Totally get it. It's a lot of effort, and I can only imagine you've been through so much more than
I was raised by therapists, Julian.
Can I just share here for a second? Because I care about you. I care about you, and I hear that you're very resistant to getting back into a therapist's office because of what I'm hearing you say is that you don't want to take the time and expend the energy that it's going to take to get caught back up with a new therapist. I can only imagine you with the things you've seen and gone through, you don't want to revisit that stuff again. But
no, it's the fact that the military made me feel like I don't want my weaknesses to be exposed.
Well, that's interesting. I think that's even more so to the point. I mean,
that's kind of why I said it. I wanted to kind of not beat around the bush.
So are you?
I don't like feeling weak. I'm a very small man. I look very weak.
Well, you're talking to somebody that believes everybody should.
You look at muscles. Mine are the same as ramen noodles, dude.
I do believe that therapy helps everybody. I do believe people have been through a fraction of what you've been through should be in therapy. I also am trying to be very respectful because I respect you for your service, and I thank you for your service, and I understand that you might not want to.
But we do not get transition training.
Right.
We get the only training to become a soldier, and then after we're done being a soldier, the Army tosses us to the side and says, good fucking luck.
But again, there are therapists that can talk to you about that. There are therapists that have certifications in dealing with people.
Well, yeah, most of them are, at least, I don't know what the sources you have, but Military One source is actually pretty good. Most of the people there are S1s or readiness NCOs or whatnot, ready to deal with this because they've dealt with it within their own company units and all that stuff. It's just, when you go through certain things in combat, they're very specific. So it's hard to find someone who specifically knows what you're going through.
Right. Well, you have stumbled into a place where you are very cared about, and maybe you weren't looking for that. Maybe you thought you'd call in here and I would just shoot the breeze with you and commiserate with you. But if that's the case, then you've called the wrong place, because as I stated at the beginning of this episode, this is a place where we really want to be there for people that are tormented and going through stuff they don't know how to get through. And so if you don't want to, if you're not ready to, I should say, roll your sleeves up and do some reading and maybe do some unpacking with a therapist, you can have a relationship for a long time, then maybe you've called the wrong place, because that's what we're here to encourage people to do, is to take their mental health seriously.
Yeah. I wasn't banking on you being a therapist or anything. It was just, I didn't know if you had any advice to help break out of that little shy shell of mine. Because, it's the military definitely defined me, who I am as a person. It's just, when I got back into the civilian world, I'm still as energetic. I'm still fun. I just don't trust anybody.
I sense that. I'm trying to
Which, with
really
that, it still goes with the whole therapist thing. I don't know how to trust anybody with that kind of personal information anymore.
Well, a therapist.
Same thing goes with dating.
A therapist won't. They can't. They're tied up in too much legality. They can't. They're sworn to confidentiality unless you tell them.
The fact is, they know.
What do you mean they know what?
Some things that we've done overseas, that's in the darkest parts of the Bible. It's just, we did a lot of ugly stuff, so therefore, at this point, maybe it's the fact that I don't know. God, I have no way of describing this. We did a lot of gray area stuff, so bringing somebody else into that doesn't really help me, just because, who knows? Maybe one day she wants to just have a fun night out. And I was like, oh yeah, you know what, a couple shots won't hurt me, and then all this stuff comes pouring out, and then, oh God, she hates me because of the stuff I did in the military. Because it's not morally right.
Well,
what do you do with that?
You're going to find, you haven't found the
right... It's happened more than once.
You're asking me? I'd say you haven't found the right woman yet, and you haven't found the right therapist yet. Or you did find the right therapist, and they were killed in a horrible accident.
I got to date 2 people? That's no fun.
I'm not giving you any specific dating advice. I'm just saying that...
I was making a joke. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm just trying to keep us on track, because I care. I can hear a lot.
I know.
You're laughing a lot, and you got to keep in mind, I get a lot
I've had beers.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's getting in the way. Maybe that's getting in the way a little bit. You got to keep in mind, you're talking to somebody that deals with a lot of people call in here.
Trust me, if I called this number without drinking, I would have not said a word. I would have just hung up and said, sorry for bothering you. I'm so sorry.
All right. Well, if you can, I don't know if you're understanding, but people call in here wearing lots of masks at times because it's like a comfort thing, and they put on this mask and they'll tell me the most horrible things I've ever heard, and then they'll laugh about it. And so I feel like I'm getting some of that from you. It's not an accusation, but you've told me some.
It's there.
You've told me a lot of you've told me a lot of really serious things, and I hear a lot of laughter in your voice, and I'm sensing that this is something that really is troubling you, and I worry that your mask is keeping you from really looking at what's going on here in a way that will yield results. I can't fix your problems. No one can fix your problems. It's going to take you.
Did you say my mask?
Your mask.
Oh, my mask. I thought you said my math. I was like, math would make better sense because I calculate all this stuff.
Right.
Which probably isn't healthy, but whatever.
I guess I'm just saying that I think Okay, so I guess one piece of advice I would give freely is
I wear many masks.
I'm sensing that your mask is keeping you from progressing in these ways, and it's going to take
Oh
you.
yeah, dude. If I was talking about this with my real face on, I'd be crying the whole time.
Right.
Can't do it. Might as well shade it with some kind of giggles. I mean, 2 kids, dude. It's hard to look forward to the future with kids in the grasp when your expectations have been stolen from you so fucking fast.
You've lost so much.
The first one, yeah, Connor was 6 months old, and then he caught pneumonia and died. And then I spent 10 years with this lady. She got pregnant, and I got so excited. I was so ready to be a dad again. I loved this lady. Yeah, sadly still kind of do, but I was so ready to do that.
I'm curious what this conversation would be like without your mask. Can you do it?
I will give it my best. It's going to hurt, but I will do it.
Because I care. I mean, we've been talking for 45 minutes now, and, you know, I've made some suggestions. You asked for suggestions. I try to be very restricted with suggestions.
All right. But I will be real with you.
But I don't feel like any of the things the chat and I are saying are really sticking with you, and I worry that this phone call will end. And,
yeah, sorry, chat. My phone is pretty cheap, so I can't read your comments while watching the video.
I'm going to be pulling some more things from the chat for you to see. But again, I just worry that this conversation will end, and then tomorrow you'll wake up and say, "Did I call in last night?" And you'll watch this and be like, "Wow, I didn't."
No, I'll know.
Okay.
I'm definitely a fan of yours. It's just.
So.
I mean, yeah, it's got me a little skeptical.
So what's one step you can make tomorrow to make this better? I've given you some suggestions. You didn't like them all. That's fine. My feelings aren't hurt at all. I mean, I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this for the people calling in. So I'm asking you. I'll put it back in your court. What's one thing you could do tomorrow to take a step towards your well-being? Even if it's one of the things I already said.
I actually honestly don't even know. With my relationship backgrounds, I live like it's the apocalypse. I have everything in my household that I have that can actually fit into my car and I can just bug out with.
Yeah, that fits.
So actually, I'm not really 100% positive on what would make anything actually work.
Well, it sounds like you're living in a state of panic. Sounds like you're living in a state of horrible expectations.
Oh, constantly. I tried to buy a Google Home, and my mom tried to tell me how it's China trying to spy on us.
I imagine hearing something like that really gets you going with your PTSD.
No, I was just like, no, I was in the United States government. They have my serial number, my fingerprints. They're tracking me definitely. That's just how it works.
Right.
When it comes to anything else, it's just the fact that, like, I just became stable, got my own apartment, and that took a long time of just feeling comfortable in the same town that I live in with that lady who I still care about.
Right.
And I have to see her all the time with somebody else who I know, because let's just not beat around the bush with this. Anytime we break up, even though she thinks I'm cheating on her and she calls me all the worst names in the book, it'll give it a couple months, give it a year, we always get back together, and then it just repeats. And she still brings up the whole military thing, me being so shut down and all this, and I'm not even that shut down. I don't get it.
Well,
I'm very expressive about how I feel.
I hear that.
And
I think you haven't found the right person.
yeah, sorry. More than likely, yeah. It's just that I have, like I said, I've imprinted on that person.
Right. Well, yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Yeah, imprinting is a great word. You know, this desk is made of spalted maple. Spalted wood. It comes from fungus invading a tree, and if it doesn't kill the tree becomes this exotic piece of wood that's really sought after. Yeah, if it's not completely overtaken by the fungus, and I had this desk made for this show because of exactly what you're talking about, because of imprinting. But that is not something that has to hold you back in life. It will hold you back if you don't see through it without your mask. If you don't take it seriously, it'll hold you back till your grave. But I don't think you want that.
I just hold her at such a high esteem. I don't feel like I could find anybody else that good.
I bet you will. I bet you will find somebody that is so accepting of you.
Well, that's also the original reason why I called, because I think I have the lady who might be that, but I don't have... My last relationship destroyed any courage I had at pursuing any of this. I'm that fucking snail hiding under a rock at this point. I'm out here in the civilian world, actually being self-sustaining after my time in that stupid thing called the fucking war in the Middle East. And I can't even get the courage to be like, hey, lady, I think you're pretty. Your personality meets mine, and I think we'd be pretty good on a first date. How would you feel about that? Can't do that personally. At that point, I pretty much, I have a wet pair of pants.
I see. Well, I mean,
can't do it.
If you're asking me, the dating stuff seems like a way smaller problem to me than the PTSD and the extreme loss you've experienced with your kids and with friends in the military. Your brothers, you call them your brothers. You have their names tattooed on your skin, and you lost them. You've dealt with so much loss, and I think you won't. The dating, I think the dating won't get any easier for you until you really deal with the underlying stuff.
I did kind of brush across that, didn't I?
Yeah.
It's just a lot of the guys I served with who wore the same tattoo, two of them most recently committed suicide in the last 2 weeks, and the rest of them did it over the last 8 years. So I'm the last surviving guy who wears the tattoo, so it's very hard to even bring up at that point.
I see. Well, that means that it has culminated in you. And in some ways, your friend's legacy deserves to be... You're the last living one. You're the hero. You're the last one standing. And does that motivate you?
Maybe not a hero. I don't know. Maybe I am. I don't know. I don't like to think that way. Humanity, in my opinion, should be surpassed that.
Everyone in the chat is with me.
Speaking as a soldier.
Everyone in the chat is with me, for the record. Everybody's saying the same number one thing I'm saying, that you need to be in a relationship. This cannot end with an hour-long phone call here on the chat with the chat and me. This is something that is going to take you a long time in therapy to unpack. The chat's with me on that, and I wonder if you have what it takes to get into some therapy without your mask and to take it seriously and dig deep. It's going to be hurtful. It's going to hurt. Can you do it?
It would take another, a year and a half, but...
Right. I'm sure.
Yeah.
But don't think of it as a year and a half.
Yes, I could.
Maybe don't think of it like a year and a half. Think of it like, I'm going to tomorrow wake up and schedule an appointment for next week, and I'm going to go next week. And if I don't like them, I won't go, and I'll find a different one. And I wonder if for you, you mentioned expectations. Expectations was the first thing you mentioned. So I wonder if you're neglecting your footsteps for the horizon a little bit. If maybe you're...
It's not that I'm neglecting my footsteps. It's the fact that with the problems that I have, most of the time it works with talking to somebody who understands, which is the camaraderie of the military. Because if you talk to somebody who is a psychologist, with somebody like me who has been through all that stupid shit, they're going to find every pin and needle and dig at it. And I just want to talk about the basics of it. Like, we did something that wasn't so good for this region, and I mean, the military obviously can't stand for this type of shit. Like, why did we do this? And all this type of jazz. And there's going to be somebody who's there who's just going to be like, I don't understand. So, and then you have to filter through all those people.
I hear what you're saying.
If you go through anybody who's military, it's like what's the best way to put it? It's the person who calls you all the time with all those deals that you never want.
Right. Well, it sounds like you're after some standard general talk therapy and not a psychologist, and I could understand why that would be, because a psychologist will kind of sit there and pick at you a little bit. They're shrinking you. You know, you don't. It doesn't sound like you
pick at you all the way.
Yeah, it sounds like you don't want a psychologist. It sounds like you want talk therapy. From somebody who
I don't get the difference.
Oh, there's a huge difference. Yeah, talk therapy. Not all counselors are psychologists. In the same way that a psychologist is not a psychiatrist. A psychiatrist gives you pills.
Just talk to me like I'm an oblivious person to therapy, because I joined the military at 17, and my dad never liked anything like therapy in our household, so I don't know what any of this stuff means.
Okay, so you should know first and foremost that therapy is not popular with the boomers. The boomers don't like therapy, on average. There's some, of course, there's exceptions everywhere. But
what generation was the boomers?
Yeah, it sounds like your parents. You know, if we're both in our 30s, your parents would have been boomers. Baby boomers.
My dad's in his 60s.
Yeah, he's a boomer. So, you know, it was seen as a sign of weakness, and a lot of boomers didn't like.
To talk about how you're hurt?
Yeah, totally. Isn't that weird?
Are you serious?
Says the guy who won't go to talk therapy.
I mean, I'm just saying, I'd rather talk about it with my fellow coworkers, if you know what I mean, in the military.
Yeah, well,
it's like with AA.
Right.
Like, anytime you go to Alcoholics Anonymous, which I have tried for like 3 years now, and it actually helped for a little bit, but the last little point of it became too religious, and I'm just sorry for the people who are listening. I'm an atheist. I don't want to have to find God to find sobriety.
Well, you don't have to find God to find sobriety. No religion can sell you sobriety. There's plenty of religious people who are alcoholics. And
I mean, yeah, but there's no actual like program that supports like Alcoholics Anonymous that doesn't be like, hey, the 10 steps involves God.
Right.
I hope I can start. You know what? Is there anything that I can do at this point with you that would help in my area to do an Alcoholics Anonymous for people who aren't religious? Just a Kickstarter of sorts.
Right. Well, you asked about the difference between psychiatry, psychology, and counseling, just standard counseling. And that's a fair question. A psychiatrist gives you pills. A psychologist is going to, you know, they're going to
give you info.
They're going to tell you about your brain if you have a personality disorder.
Yeah, they're going to tell you you're off.
Yeah, they're looking for what's wrong with you.
Either you get pills, you get advice that you never asked for, or they just tell you it's all in your head. Why can't you get a group of guys in the military who are just all there to get together and just say, like, yeah, we're all fucked up, so let's just kind of work together?
You know,
without
you raise
that whole religious aspect.
You raise a good point. You said it's either pills or it's a bunch of advice you never asked for, or they tell you it's all in your head. And I guess by saying they tell you it's all in your head, you meant a therapist. That's what a therapist gives you. Now, you're right that...
No, that's what your platoon sergeant tells you. It's all in your head.
Well, a good therapist is not going to tell you that. You can surely find plenty of bad therapists that will say, oh, it's just in your head, you got to get over it, and they don't have anything practical to say. That's a bad therapist, and there's many of them. But a good
I've
therapist.
met only people like that. They're like, dude, I don't know how to deal with your type of psychosis. And I was like, are you telling me I'm a psychotic right now? And they're like, I mean, by what you've said, it is leaning towards that. And I was like, do you think I'm going to harm myself or others?
Right.
And they're like, well, I'm not getting that worried about it. But then why do you bring it up like that?
Well, it sounds like you've encountered some really insensitive, unprofessional talk therapy. Again, you need
a little bit.
You need a therapist that will be qualified to speak with you as someone who is a veteran. There are specific therapists that specialize in that specific thing.
Oh, dude,
I'm being
if you can
explicit
give me one,
with
I
my
will
words
call
here.
them tonight. I tell you what.
Well, they are out there. Don't tell me where you are, but tomorrow, will you make me a promise? Because I'm worried about you. Will you make me a promise? One small promise for tomorrow.
I'm not gonna do anything to myself. That's fine, Julian. I'm just.
No, I'm not. I'm not asking you not to do anything to yourself. I don't believe you're gonna hurt yourself. But will you do one small thing for me tomorrow if I ask it of you?
I will try to.
Would you?
Depending on what it is.
Fair. Would you tomorrow Google your city? Don't tell us what it is here. Your city, military veteran talk therapy or counselor, and find
Guess
someone.
what it gives me every time?
What's that?
Military One Source.
I'm not familiar with that resource, but there's so many more than
It's
one.
the military therapy hotline. If you feel like you're being suicidal or whatnot, and it does not help. They're just like, oh, so what did you do in your military career? And then you have to rethink everything, and it puts you in that mindset right there, and you get instantly pissed off, and you just fucking hang up because you're like, never mind, I don't need you at this point. I'm just pissed off.
What about if I give you a
link? They
link?
Don't give you anything.
Right here, I'm looking
it's
at...
like, oh, how could we help you? And it's like, could you help with this? And they're like, we can give you contact for numbers that could help you. And it's like, that doesn't help me because it's the same thing that we would get waiting in line for the VA. Which the waiting line for the VA is a goddamn nightmare.
I've heard that. Now, I'm on Psychology Today's website. Psychology Today is a great resource for finding talk therapy in your area. It can be a great, at least, starting place. I've used this before in different cities. I know it works. And they have a specific veterans.
Used it in 3 different cities.
They have a specific veterans tool. So if you're a military veteran, you can find
yeah, they sound like telemarketers.
They're not telemarketers. If I
I'm
put
just
this,
saying they sound like it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what are you dealing with today?
Well,
it's like, oh, I don't know. Maybe back in 2015, I killed a 6-year-old kid. Who knows?
I am putting this link in the chat for you. Will you tomorrow go look at it and find, maybe tonight after the call, will you use it right now? Go see what it pulls up in your area. These are individuals, not companies.
I mean, yeah.
And I'm not promising you that.
Right.
I'm not promising you the first one you go to you're going to fall in love with. In fact, I can almost guarantee you that won't happen. I'm asking, can you invest some time and some energy into going and seeing a dozen therapists if it takes that, to find one that understands you and is not going to judge you or just tell you it's in your head. I know that sounds like a lot. Mm-hmm. You've been through so much, but I mean, the chat. You're called us, and the chat and I are telling you this one thing.
I did.
The chat and I are telling you this one thing. I've recommended 2 books. If you read the books or not, I'd rather you just get in the talk therapy. Will you use this tool we're sending you in the chat?
You see, with talk therapy, it usually entails a bunch of veterans in one big circle group talking about their problems. I would like to do a one-on-one type thing, and with veterans, it's never that.
Oh, sure.
It's always
you
just,
haven't found it
oh,
yet.
We have only this much funding to provide for these guys, so meet in this group, and we will see if we can help you.
Right. I'm telling you.
And half the time,
I'm telling you. I'm not asking you. I'm telling you that what you're looking for exists, and you just keep telling me it doesn't. So I'm wondering what the reason for the call is. I mean, I want you to take care of yourself.
I'll call the number that you provide. It's fine. I'm sorry if I'm getting if I seem a bit confrontational, it's just, in my experience, they haven't been so forthcoming with just the empathy that is deserved for veterans of my time, because a lot of the stuff that we've done is very ostracizing when it comes to the mindset of people. Once you've done this dark gray area, it just separates you from everybody else.
You do deserve that empathy.
You can't come back from that.
You do deserve that empathy. You deserve respect in therapy. You deserve empathy in therapy. You deserve someone to take your amount of loss seriously. That's why I'm trying to be so careful with you on the phone here. It's also why I'm arguing with you a little bit.
It's fine.
Because I'm arguing with you for you, because I can hear in your voice you're tormented. You were wearing a mask for most of the call. And
I'm still wearing a mask. Are you kidding?
It's okay. It's okay. But I'm concerned. And I agree with you. You do deserve that respect and that empathy and a lot more, many more things that you didn't even mention. You deserve the best kind of therapy there is.
Just debatable.
You would deserve the best therapy there is. I believe that. It might take you a long time to find that.
But why?
Because you've lost so much and you've been in the military. You know,
and you're talking about a culmination of all of them. Oh. I thought we were just talking about the military aspect of it. But I'm actually kind of looking for, wow. This kind of got real a little bit. I was looking for answers for me and my buddies, but I guess it did turn into a thing about me, huh?
Yeah, well, you, to be fair, did lead with a bunch of personal things. It wasn't about your buddies. But I want to be very careful, because I realize I'm dealing with a veteran here. And I want you to know that I respect you, and I hear everything you've told me. I've taken very good notes. I'm trying to be very careful and sensitive. I respect you. I thank you for your service. I'm concerned.
Oh, yeah. It's just
I'm very concerned.
Be careful with that, just so you know, Julian.
Be careful with what?
Just some soldiers have done some things that will take a lot more time to deal with. Like, I did my service, and it's definitely messed me up. Fucking, like, God knows it's messed me up. But I'm also, I was a squad leader. So I know the importance of looking out for your fellow soldiers. So, if anything, this should be an eye-opener for everybody else. This is just basic stuff that I'm dealing with, and the rest of soldiers have a lot of other stuff dealing with in their lives, because unlike me, most of them have like a wife and kids to deal with, and I'm just alone. I'm here by myself after all that shit. I'm looking out for my buddies at this point. I would definitely look into that stuff, as you said, but I'm also going to pass this knowledge along to my buddies, because that's some useful shit, I would say.
Well, I'm glad that you've taken something from this. I mean, I'm concerned that nothing's going to stick. I'm having a hard time seeing through.
It's going to stick. What are you worried about? I'm going to look into this stuff. Don't you worry about it. Okay. I mean, I'm just, wow. Have you never been, like, starstruck? I mean, damn.
I don't get starstruck very much.
I'm also just kind of excited to be on the little show you got going on here, Dick.
Well,
I've had my problems, but shit.
That's all well and good, but, you know, the purpose of this is to talk about, it sounds like I think you've used this space well. I sense some slight resistance to, and I can understand why. And again, I'm trying to be very careful. A
little bit.
You know, but again, I'm just going to say this, like, these problems won't fix themselves. Your friends can't fix this. Your buddies that you keep mentioning.
They never do.
They can't fix it. A good woman that you're on.
And I will say
they can't
to all the listeners here who are listening to me, just because I'm drinking alcohol does not mean it fixes it.
It doesn't fix it. That's right. And
I'm just enjoying it while talking to somebody else who understands these debacles, just so you guys know. And I'm going to take those phone numbers and see which ones actually kind of stick, I guess.
You might have to do some reading. I would recommend going through the profiles, and you seem like a really discerning person. So what I like to do if I'm going cold, looking for a new therapist, I'll use a resource like Psychology Today or something like I sent you, and I'll read I'll go through and
Is
just
it reliable?
I'll look through like a dozen different profiles of therapists, and I'll read their profiles and decide, first of all, if I like how they're written. Because a lot of these therapists don't even know how to write one.
Is this like Ask Jeeves?
No, it's
For
Psychology Today.
therapists?
No. You'll see when you go on there. It's just a roster of psychologists registered in your area. But you can read. They all have different profiles, and you can read their professional bio and decide if you like how they describe themselves. You can search for their qualifications. The veterans tool that I sent you is going to automatically filter any therapist that has qualifications to deal with a veteran. So if you follow that link that's in the chat I sent earlier, then you're going to get a bunch of good recommendations and probably a bunch of bad ones. And that's going to be on you to decide which ones you want to go spend some time with.
All right. I will do that, all right?
Great.
I'm gonna toss it to your crowd fan, okay?
Great.
Can I hang up? Is that okay?
I'm so glad that you've made us that promise, and I want to hear an update from you. Will you give us an update at some point, here or in the Discord?
When should I call back? Give me a good estimation when to give an update.
Can you call back in 5 minutes?
5 minutes?
That was a joke.
I was gonna say, Jesus, dude. I mean, I'm sorry, Julian, dude. What should I do with 5 minutes?
That was a joke. Call back anytime.
As was Julian.
Now, I can't guarantee that we'll...
I tried to call you Jesus for a second.
Okay. Ooh, don't call me that. Can't guarantee that we will see your call, but you can... you could also join the Discord and give us... That's a great place to give us an update in an easy way if you're on Discord.
I am on Discord, so I guess I'll do that one.
Okay, great. Well...
All right, so I'll hand you off to the next guy, okay, Julian?
Sounds great. Thanks so much for sharing tonight. Take care of yourself. Good luck.
All right, have fun, dude. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I really appreciated that caller. They seemed really resistant to going to certain places, but I appreciated their sense of humor and even the mask, and I do get some relief knowing that they're going to take therapy seriously. Also, it's just mind-boggling to me how many people are confused about the differences between psychiatry, psychology, and just normal counseling. So I'm glad that we were able to bring some clarity to the caller on that. And hopefully they pursue that tool that was recommended and also get some things out of the chat. So now, wow, that was, I think that was actually the longest amount of time we've ever spent with the first caller right out of the gate. We basically spent the whole first half of the show on the phone with that caller. So now it's time for our little intermission. As I like to joke, this is the time when everybody leaves. This is going to last about 5 minutes. And this just gives me a few minutes to clear my head and listen better for the next callers. So don't go anywhere if you can stomach it. We'll be right back. 5 minutes. All right. We are back. Sorry to the all the callers at the beginning of the chat, at the beginning of this stream. I forgot to put the number up on the screen at the very beginning of this. But I am really glad we got to connect with that last caller. So maybe it was serendipity. Lines are open, and we are jumping back in with our next caller. Here we go. Hi, thanks for calling. Hello?
Hello?
Hi, thanks for calling.
Hi. I am calling because I kind of struggle with a lot of insecurity, and it's been really weighing heavily on me recently. And yeah.
You mean like self-doubt?
Not really self-doubt, more so like, I really struggle with my appearance and who I am as a person and being accepting of that.
I see. How old are you?
21.
Okay. So what is it about your parents that you're struggling with?
I'm sorry, say that again?
What is it with your parents and yourself that you're struggling with?
Oh, I said appearance.
Oh, your appearance. Okay. So, you don't like the way you look?
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. I also really struggle with my personality and who I am. I really struggle with feeling like I am a bother to people, that I annoy people, and that I'm just not good enough.
So, what do you mean by not good enough? What do you think about you isn't good enough? Towards people, your personality.
Well, I guess a little bit about me. I've been diagnosed with ADHD and PTSD, as well as OCD tendencies.
Oh, wow.
And obviously with that, I have anxiety and depression and just a lot of other little things. And I often feel like I come across as too much for some people, or that I'm not everything that people want me to be.
I see. Do you feel this way with everyone, or is it just acquaintances? Do you have close friends that you feel value you?
I do. It definitely depends on the person for me. And I guess with some aspects of myself, I feel, I'm trying to figure out how to word this properly. I feel across the board insecure about, and then there are other things with certain people I just don't feel good enough. Like, I do struggle a lot with my family and feeling like I fit in with my family. And when it comes to like my physical appearance, that's something I struggle with consistently, and which to me, and it feels really ridiculous because I'm huge on like everyone is beautiful the way they are, and you know, you shouldn't fit into society's standards, except I can't believe that for myself.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know what you look like. That's part of the beauty of this format, is that people can call in here and share and not worry about things like that, at least for a small amount of time, in hopes of getting to the bottom of things like this. So I'm glad you're using this space for that. We've had a lot of callers all over the spectrum of identity, male, female, they, them, and they, people who want exactly what you're after, to be more comfortable in their own skin. And I know it doesn't fix the problem, but I just want to empathize with you and I guess sympathize with you that this world we're in is not more... we live in such a homogenous world of Barbie dolls and Disney princesses and princes and, fashion models on every magazine in the gas station, and we get bombarded with all these images of how people ought to look. I wonder what people would make of all people without these kinds of signals from mainstream media. Like, if we didn't have magazines and movies shoving it down our throat what people ought to look like, how much differently would the diverse beauty we see in humanity be? I mean, I think it would be a lot different. It's kind of hard to imagine a world like that, of course. But I used to get made fun of all the time when I was a kid because I have a gap in my teeth, and I chose to not get braces when I was a kid, so it was my own choice, but I took a lot of heat for that, and familiar with. I mean, even still to this day, I get the occasional person that, like. Actually, it's funny. During COVID, I was running a lot of productions, and I wasn't doing YouTube, and everybody's wearing masks, of course, especially in production. You got a bunch of strangers in the same room. Everybody's masked up, and if you take your mask off, you're breaking protocol, and you're fired, and all this stuff. And there was a couple occasions where I took my mask off, and people I'd been working with for months saw my teeth for the first time, and they laughed. And I was grown adult at this point, so I didn't really care, but I was just like, how strange is that somebody would like laugh at a gap in someone's teeth? Like, that's really bizarre. Like, just a bizarre reaction. It didn't hurt my feelings, but it's just a bizarre reaction. Like, yeah, nobody's so I guess I'm not trying to make it about me, but I'm empathizing with you that it can be. I understand what it's like to not be normal and not fit a mold of what people ought to look like, and I'm not sure what you look like, but what do you think that comes from? Is it your own insecurity, or was that pushed onto you as a kid, or do you know where that comes from for you?
I do. The thing I struggle with the most is my own perception of my weight. And I mean, without going into details, obviously, I am a bit overweight, but I know literally, like, I'm not like obese or anything, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm not like a larger person. I'm pretty average, a bit overweight. But I really struggle with the concept that my worth is in my weight. And that's because growing up, my dad inadvertently taught me that my worth was in my weight. Oh. And so I struggle now to separate the idea that they're not conjoined.
Oh, your dad told you this?
Not literally, but I recall, my parents split up when I was 8, and it was a really messy divorce. And my dad and I had a rocky relationship as it was. At the time it wasn't rocky. I don't know how to word this. It was kind of a grooming situation. So I was kind of taught to be very close to my dad by my dad. And especially after my parents separated, he kind of was like, one day you can live with me and you can take care of the house and you can do things for me, and basically talking to me like I was going to become his housewife one day. And there was a lot of other little things, but I won't really get into that right now. But basically, I recall when I would visit him, he would put me on the scale often. And this was when I was still growing. And if the number went up on the scale, he would get extremely disappointed in me. Keeping in mind that I was like 11, 10, and I had no control over what I ate. I just ate whatever was put in front of me at my mom's house, at my dad's house, whatever. And despite the fact that I was still growing, if I gained weight, he would be like disappointed in me, and he'd treat me differently for the rest of the evening. And because of the situation I was in, I wanted to please my dad as best as I could. My dad relied on me emotionally. And so for me to disappoint my dad was awful. And I know that a lot of my insecurity stems from that, because he put so much, emphasis on how much I weigh. And I mean, even a really good example I can think of is we were in a grocery store one time, and we were in the book section, and I remember me and my younger siblings were looking at books, like the kids' books, and he was off like on the other side of the aisle, and he waved me over and was like, "Come here, I want to show you something." And so he pulled out this book, and I remember it so vividly. There was a picture of a girl who was standing in front of a chalkboard, and she was very large for a child. And the book was, I can't remember what it was titled, but it was something along the lines of What to Do When Your Daughter's Fat. And my dad said, "I'm thinking of buying this book for you." And
How old were you here?
the thing is, like, probably like 10 or 11.
Oh.
And I was always like, I wasn't like a really skinny kid, but I was by no means like fat or anything like that. And the sad thing is, this book is like for, parents who has a very severely overweight child, and it's like becoming a health issue. Like it was a legitimate book meant to help people, and my dad used it to make me more insecure. And I mean, there were just countless other stories of that. And so I know that's why I struggle so much with my appearance and with my weight, because that was just how I was taught to be.
Makes me really sad hearing stories like yours. I mean, parents are supposed to be coaches and cheerleaders for their kids, and there's so many parents that let their kids down. I feel like it's almost expected now that parents are gonna let their kids down. And I'm so sorry that you got that. You got that from your parents. I'm glad that you can pinpoint some of this. It makes me wonder. I wonder if you're, not that it makes it easier, but since we're talking about where it stemmed from, I wonder if your dad, after the divorce, maybe felt like putting you on a scale at that age was the only way to control what you were eating and making sure you were getting the nutrition you needed while you were at your mom's house. I mean, I'm divorced. I don't put my kids on scales. Let me just stop right here and just say, like, I don't do that. They only do it at the doctor's office. I don't really care, but point being that, like, I wonder when I know my former wife is, she's got, good, she's healthy and whatnot. I'm sure they eat good stuff, but I just don't know. Like, when they come here, I'm like, what have they had this week? I'm not going to like necessarily text my ex-wife to see what it is they've eaten. Like, it's not that big of a deal. So I'm constantly like, should they have a salad today? Should they eat, like, how much bread have they had? Things like this, just because it's, not because of weight, but because of health. And I wonder if maybe your dad had some bad ideas of what health was. Maybe, is it possible that all he knew to do was to put you on a scale? Or do you think it was like some patriarchy? You think it was some, like, feminine body ideals that your dad was trying to get you to adhere to? What are you thinking when I'm saying that stuff?
I think it was probably a combination of both, because the situation with my dad was a really tough and toxic situation. And that's just the whole weight thing is one small part of a much bigger picture. My parents divorced because it was a domestic violence relationship. Oh. My father being the abuser.
Oh. Okay.
And I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm just interjecting. I just said okay. That's fast. That's a new development in the story. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. So, I mean, one could argue that, sure, he was concerned about what I was eating, that I was healthy. However, when we would go to his house on the weekends, we would eat about 3 or 4 different meals. Generally, he would either make us a Hot Pocket, like one singular Hot Pocket for dinner, one of those like microwavable burritos, or a ham sandwich. No size, no nothing. Or for like breakfast, we would have toast. So we didn't even eat much at my dad's house. The things we ate there weren't very healthy. And while we would eat these other, foods. I remember him eating, chicken wings and like all these like yummy foods. And I remember being like, can we have that too? And he'd be like, no, you can't have that. It's not even that good. Like he would have special things for himself that we weren't allowed to have. And that was, aside from food, that was just kind of how everything was in my life. Everything was controlled microscopically. I mean, to the point where we couldn't even get out a board game without asking his permission. There were certain rooms in the house we weren't allowed to walk into without his permission. I mean, everything was controlled.
I see.
With an iron fist.
So you're dealing with someone who may be a control freak.
Oh, absolutely. He was a narcissist.
Oh, you think he was a narcissist? Sure. Do you know that? Are you pretty sure about that? Or is that something you're throwing around?
I'm very careful with self-diagnosing things, and I don't really know much about his too much about his experiences with therapy and everything. I cut contact with him when I was 12.
Oh my goodness.
But based on what I know of narcissists and the definition of a narcissist, I can confidently say he was a narcissist.
You haven't talked to him since you were 12?
Yeah.
My goodness, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Okay. It is what it is.
Yeah. Well, that automatically makes you very brave. Not automatically, because it was a process that got you to that point. But, I mean, doing that at the age of 12, that takes some serious foresight. And I'm just so sorry.
I mean, it was tough. I'm not going to lie.
Do you feel healthy?
I recall. What was that?
Sorry, go on with your story. I talked over you. You remember when you were 12, what?
I just lost my train of thought. ADHD is kicking in.
I'm
Hold on.
Sorry.
I remember leaving when I was 12. It was not, of course it was not an easy process, but I mean, it was definitely a case of emotional incest. My father relied on me fully for everything, and he'd cry to me, and he would pin me in between him and my mom, and I was kind of the go-between. I was the golden child of our family system. And I just recall my father would constantly say, and I would never say to him that I wanted to leave or I didn't want to be there, but he would always say to me, if you don't want to be here so much, then why don't you just go? Why don't you just go back to your mother's house? And I would be like, but I don't. I want to be here with you. I love you and whatever. And I remember finally he said this to me one day after he had yelled at me all night long over something. And he said that to me, and I said, okay, take me back to my mom's house. And I had finally hit my limit. And yeah, but all that to say, it was a process to get there. Years to realize that this was not normal or healthy.
Your story's heartbreaking. I'm really sorry that you had to have a father like that. I wonder how that contributes to how you feel about yourself, especially since your dad sounds like he was the kind of guy that was really hard on you to begin with about your weight and whatnot. The question I asked earlier was about whether or not you feel healthy. Do you feel healthy?
As in currently?
Yeah. Like, how does your body feel?
No.
You don't know, or you said no? I'm sorry.
No, I said no.
Okay.
I have a lot of issues with food as it is. I struggle with binge eating. And I struggle, obviously with just looking at myself. And with my ADHD, I have a tendency to hyper-focus on food. And I also am, it's a lot to explain, but I tend to focus on a food, and I have to have that food, and I'll get like a craving, and it will not go away until I eat that one food. And as well as several other issues I have with food. And it's so frustrating to me because I have tried so many different like diets and healthy eating plans. I mean, I literally work for a weight loss company. Like, you know, I know how to eat healthy. It's just my brain, like my ADHD is so severe. My dopamine levels are so low that just I am craving any sort of dopamine production, and the easiest way to do that is food. And so my brain just latches onto an idea of like, oh, I need Subway right now and it will not go away until I get my Subway. And it's so frustrating to me, and it's left me just like in tears so many times because like, why can't I control this? Why does my brain work this way? You know?
Right. Having a bunch of different thoughts.
And it's when I say it,
sorry, go ahead.
It's so frustrating saying it out loud because it sounds so like lack of self-control, and maybe it is, but it's like the best way I can explain it and how my brain works is imagine if you had someone sitting next to you and who followed you around all day and was like, hey, you know that bag of chips downstairs? Why don't you go eat it? And you're like, no, shut up. I'm eating healthy. And then they go, no, go get it. Go eat it. Go downstairs and get it. Go get it. Go get it. And they don't shut up. And finally you're like, okay, fine. I will go do it if it will shut you up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it feels for me. It's just this constant, like, it's binge eating. Is what my biggest issue is. And so I carry a lot of guilt with that also.
I see.
Yeah.
Do you exercise?
I started exercising, and then I started getting really bad issues with my back. I've been having a lot of sciatic nerve pain, and it's been making it hard to even walk sometimes. I took my dog for a walk the other day, and my entire leg went numb. So I've been trying to get to a doctor that's going to actually help me with that. And I have an appointment for a new primary care doctor on Tuesday.
Okay.
But I haven't really been able to do much exercising because I've been in so much pain.
I'm really sorry to hear that. Do you have a foam roller? I know that seems like maybe something you weren't expecting me to say, but do you have a foam roller?
I'm not even familiar with that.
Oh my goodness. Best $20 you will ever spend. Will you go buy a foam roller tonight? You can get it on Amazon. I'm not going to say you have to get it on Amazon because I realize it's a bunch of but they're so easy to get. You can get it at Walmart, Target. You go to any store, you can find get one that has like a. Okay, so I'm recommending this because you said you have back pain and sciatic nerve pain, and I've dealt with some back pain and never had sciatic nerve issues. But the foam roller is the best $20 I ever spent in my entire life. I'm on my foam roller 5 times a day, 5 minutes at a time. I probably spend 20 minutes on it total every day, and it's not like all at once, you know, like I said, I break it up, but if you're having trouble exercising, the foam roller, it looks like a giant toilet paper roller kind of, or a toilet paper roll or paper towel roll, but it's made of solid foam. Some of them are reinforced in the middle with plastic. That's the one I have. It's really rigid, and and you just roll on it on your back, or you can do it on your legs or even your stomach or your chest, wherever the pain is. And I am so flexible now after years of doing my foam roller. Like I'm embarrassingly flexible. I will say that. Like it's all because of the foam roller. And I got it because I was trying to, I went through a phase where I wasn't exercising a lot and I wanted to, ease into it with some stretching. I didn't want to just go out and like start running all the time or like pumping a bunch of weights or anything. So I used a foam roller for a long time. I still use it every day, even if I do exercise. It can be a great way to kind of warm your body up to some hard exercise if you're having especially sciatic nerve pain. I've never had it, but I know it's really helpful with that. You might consider that would be a lot cheaper than a physical therapist, although you might need some therapy or whatever it was you said you're going to be getting from your doctor. But that was just one thought I had.
Yeah, no, I will look into that tomorrow. I'll get one from the store. Because I need something, that's for sure.
There's also, there's a book that has a very strange title that I'm going to recommend to you because you said it's back pain, right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Back.
Okay. So there is a book. Again, the title is very strange. I'm probably going to get a bunch of flack for recommending this book because I have I'm giving this book a massive disclaimer because I have a huge problem with the title of this book. But it is a very well-known book, and a bunch of psychologists recommend this to patients. It's actually how I heard about it, was in therapy. It's a book called Healing Back Pain. Healing Back Pain, The Mind-Body Connection by John Sarno. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with that book. But
I'm not, no.
I'm going to put this in the chat for you so you can find it later. Healing Back Pain. I'm putting the Goodreads link for you so you can go find it. This is not a book that you're going to read and then it's not like, this is why I have a problem with the title. I'll just say this because it kind of seems like you read this book and your back pain goes away. That's not it. It's very much, I'm suggesting it because it sounds like you had a lot of childhood from your childhood and you're estranged from your father and you were raised with a bunch of body image issues, and you've carried those into adulthood, and now you've gotten to a point where you're not only struggling with your eating habits, but also you've gotten to a point where you can't exercise. And I think a foam roller with this book would be a good place to start. I'm also wondering if you've been in therapy or if you've had a relationship with a counselor before.
Yeah, I have a counselor and a therapist, actually.
Okay, good.
I haven't been in to see my therapist in a hot second, but that's because she canceled on me, and then I had something I had planned since pre-pandemic. So it was a concert that I could finally go to, so I ended up having to cancel with her. And my therapy schedule has changed recently because I used to go every week, and then I did something called DBT group, and because I finished that, I guess the policy at my therapist's office is that once you finish that, you have to switch to every other week. I didn't want to do that because I didn't feel like I was ready to go to every other week, but I didn't really have a choice.
Right.
So I'm thankful I have my counselor also because that kind of fills in the gap.
Right. Okay. Well, you like your counselor? Sounds like you do.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. I've seen him for well over a year now. To be honest, I prefer my counselor over my therapist. I feel like I can actually really get into stuff with him.
Okay, good. Argonianon from the chat often has insightful things to share. They say to you, if you have sciatic issues, it is also very important to elevate your lower back when you sleep to prevent it from tightening. Sleep on your back with a thin pillow under your sacrum. It sounds like they've had some issues with sciatic nerves. I'm guessing that. I'll share that, not knowing if it's helpful. But again, Argonianon is a name I recognize. They often have helpful things to say. I'm just trying to think of anything that might help you get back to exercising because you said you don't feel healthy. The reason I asked if you felt healthy is because I don't think there's anything wrong with having some potato chips. You know, like if you if you want some potato chips, like you know, like we shouldn't. Certain foods shouldn't make us feel guilty. We should. I think that's a product of mainstream media and you know, again, all this stuff we've talked about, all these influences we have in modern culture. But if you feel healthy, I mean, and you can feel healthy. You can work off some potato. If you like something, eat it and go do the work to make sure it doesn't make you feel bad later. That's my philosophy. You know, I don't know if that's helpful or not. I'm trying to be really sensitive on these calls that I'm not recommending bad things, of course. But you know, I don't believe there's anything wrong with potato chips. In fact, I love potato chips, especially the ones with vinegar. I love some salt and vinegar potato chips. But yeah, I think it's an epidemic what we're dealing with body image issues. We've had so many people call in here from all walks of life and identifying in all kinds of different ways. And this is a real problem. I mean, we are not this homogenous thing that the media reports us to be. We are diverse, and there's beauty in diversity. In fact, what do we hear on the news all the time about our collapsing ecosystems in different parts of the world, the ecosystems that are collapsing? Not the whole world's collapsing, but the ecosystems that have collapsed. Why do they collapse? They collapse because a lack of diversity. You know, we lose an important species, or and everything's interdependent. Like, we need diversity. This homogenous picture of humanity we get from mainstream media is not helpful. And I'm just going to keep saying that because I hear that you're having a hard time appreciating yourself and valuing yourself, and that's that's a slippery slope into some really low places. And you sound like a beautiful person. You sound like somebody that is very thoughtful. You mentioned you have some close friends that value you objectively, and I'm glad you have that, because a lot of people don't even have that. And I'm sorry to hear about.
Definitely blessed in that area.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to hear about your sciatic nerve pain. I know that I've heard that's really painful. I don't know from experience.
Yeah, it sucks. But and this gives me anxiety to kind of bring up, but I want to. I just to take this a whole step further. Yes, the whole body image issue is a huge issue for me. But I mean, I struggle with my personality too, and that kind of goes on the opposite side of what I talked about. It comes from like my mom, and I know when my parents they separated and we moved in with my grandparents, and it was me, my siblings, my mom, and it was a lot of people under one roof. I was put in the middle between my dad and my mom, and I was the go-between for them. And my dad would try to pin me against my mom. And I just remember, also at the time struggling with undiagnosed PTSD and ADHD and just a lot of issues that I only found out within the past few years. I was labeled as a brat, lazy, loud, annoying, all these things, and it wasn't as if, I was told, like, you're acting like this right now. It was, you are this. And so on top of all these body image issues I have this constant feeling of just not being good enough, because that's what I was told growing up.
I'm so sorry you were told that growing up. No kid needs to be told that they're a brat or any of the things you just mentioned. None of those are appropriate things to tell a kid. Kids are so impressionable. Kids believe what they're told. And I guess I wonder if you did believe and maybe still believe what you were, you launched right into that story after saying you have a hard time accepting your personality, and seems like you know exactly where that comes from. And I wonder if you believe it. Do you believe that that's true? Do you really believe it? Do you have reason? I guess, let me ask it a better way. Do you have reason to believe that those things are true?
Yes and no. I think when it comes to my family structures, I feel like I do believe it. Because, like I said, I was, especially as a kid, I was trained by my dad to hate my mom, essentially. And so I was a demon child for my mom. I was definitely a struggle, and it was because I was being abused and, essentially being brainwashed by my dad. And so I'm not gonna pretend that it was easy on my mom. And of course, she was coming out of a domestic violence situation, and she was going through her own stuff. And I don't really hold it against my mom, because I know she, like I said, was dealing with her own stuff. But I do think it greatly shaped who I am now and how I view myself. And even though I'm not the same kid I was, and, you know, I don't see my dad, and so I've been able to realize that, you know, the things that my dad said or taught me to believe aren't true. And I'm not the same person I was. But I think a lot of times my family still views me that way and sees me that way. And it doesn't really matter what strides I take to be a better person. I'm not good enough for them, it feels like. And so I oftentimes still struggle that I am those things to them, because that's how they viewed me, and I feel like they'll never view me any other way.
So is it, let me ask it a different way. Do you have reason to believe outside of your family that you are these things they've accused you of?
Mostly no. I think I still struggle just with being loud, and I'm, you know, talkative, obviously, and I talk a lot, and I think that I can be overbearing at times unintentionally. And I mean, I know most people don't think that of me, but I still get incredibly insecure about that, to the point where I know I'm kind of like beating around the bush here, I guess, but I'm not sure.
Right. Well, the reason I ask is, you know, to quote Jesus, he famously said, I'll butcher it, but he said something like, "A prophet is only dishonored in his own hometown," and I think that's a helpful verse in so many contexts. Of course, you don't even have to believe in prophecy or anything like that to understand what that's about. What he meant by that was that it's really hard for the people closest to us to see what we truly are. The people who we grew up with, the people who saw us grow up, they don't see us objectively. They see us for what we came from. And that's not always fair. In fact, it's hardly ever fair, because what we come from and what we become are two totally different things. Most people end up using what they came from to become something very different for positive change. You know, they want better for their own kids, or they want better for themselves in the house they grew up in. I have heard you share so many things about your parents labeling you in negative ways. I mean, I can only imagine what it's like to grow up hearing those things time and time again, all the time. Do your friends say that kind of stuff to you? That's what I'm wondering.
No.
Well, there you go. Jesus was right. I think it sounds like Jesus was right in your case.
Yeah. I still struggle with the fear of, my friends are very nice people, and so of course they're not going to tell me to my face, "You're being really annoying. Can you shut up?"
Right.
So I struggle with the idea of, what aren't they saying, or what are they thinking that I don't know about? And I know I can't, you know, worry about other people's opinions of me, but it's much easier said than done.
Right. It can be so hard to forget the things we're told when we're kids. Even I don't forget my own childhood. I've not completely forgotten or put to bed all the things I grew up with. I was never told outright that I was a brat or annoying, but you know, I had other experiences, and you know, those things do stick with us, and those things can be really hard to shake, especially because these come from, when it's your parents. These are the people that are supposed to nurture you and care for you, and they're responsible for, you know, they're like a gardener, you know, and their kids are the garden. You know, they got to make sure their kids are getting everything they need to grow into mature beings. And when you hear these stories of neglectful parents, or parents that weren't careful enough, or parents that just let any thought out of their head, like, it makes me really sad, because that's not what you needed to hear when you were a kid. You needed someone to tell you, you were beautiful. You needed someone to tell you you had value. You needed someone to tell you you were a good friend, you were a good listener, or you were self-aware. I mean, you're clearly self-aware. You're calling in with a bunch of self-awareness, uh, uh, and you clearly want to do the work. And I'm a complete stranger, and I hear all those things in you. And so, in a lot of ways, again, like that's what this whole place is about, is for people like you to call in who have, they're dealing with expectations from family, or they're dealing with things they can't shake, to get fresh perspective, to have a stranger tell you what they're hearing. I'm hearing the voice of someone who is really thoughtful and really wants to be happy with their life. And I'm hearing the voice of somebody who cares about how they feel and how they make other people feel. And I've not been in an argument with you. I've not heard you. Everybody has their moments, but from what I'm hearing with you on the phone here, you sound like a really reflective person. And of course, everybody has their moments. Everybody has a limit. Everybody has buttons that can be pressed. I mean, we're only human. But I don't hear the voice of a brat on the phone. I don't. Your parents may have seen that. Your parents may have, maybe your parents were immature, and of course, family is annoying. Family is always going to be annoying, but family is also beautiful, and it's what we have, and it's honorable. Family is what we are, and so it's complicated with family because they're going to see the worst in us. They're going to see us at our low points, and it's a very vulnerable relationship because it's easily abused. It's really easy for a parent to be abusive and not even realize it, especially if they're not self-aware. Doesn't sound like your parents were very self-aware, or they didn't have foresight or something. Like, I could almost, at least I have to imagine that if your parents knew what their words were going to do to you, how they were going to manifest in your life, I have to believe that they would have chosen different words, more constructive words.
Yeah.
And I'm really sorry you had to hear those and that you're still carrying it. That's really rough. Have you shared this with your friends, your close friends that you feel like see you? Hello? Oh, we lost the caller. Caller, I don't know what happened. I don't know if you're in a bad signal area. My connection is good. I'm really sorry we lost you. You can feel free to call back. Goodness. I don't know how to call you back. I'm sorry. With that, I guess lines are open again. I hate it when that happens. That's only happened a few times. To everybody listening, if you can, make sure you're in a good signal area or at least connected to Wi-Fi or something before you call in, just to make sure we don't get disconnected, because I do hate wondering what happens to callers when that happens. We'll take the next caller. Here we go. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm all right. How are you tonight?
Good. Hold on. I kind of wasn't expecting you to answer. I wasn't expecting to get the luck of the draw. Would you give me like 10 seconds to get to a safer spot?
Of course.
Thank you. One moment. How's it going?
What's on your mind?
Well, I came to call really because, I'm a new viewer to the show. Obviously, I've been subscribed for a long time. Just calling because, I'm entering my 20s now, and, I was in therapy for a long time, in my teen years, and I went through tough experiences with when I was very young, like 15, 14, that I would take. Like I used to do drugs when I was, in my youth. And I when I was a kid I took like a lot of psychedelic drugs, and now growing up having taken those with a brain that was still maturing, it finds that coming into adulthood is very scary and very tough, and deal with a lot of anxiety, existentialism, and not knowing who I am as I grow.
I'm sorry to hear about that. How old are you now? You said you're 20?
Yeah, I'm 21. I'm about to turn 21.
Okay. Um, yeah, drug use is, I'm not sure what you were using when you were a teenager, but yeah, that can be very traumatic. How long have you been clean? Are you clean?
I am, man. Yeah, I haven't been doing drugs for pretty much a while. When I was a teenager, to do like, you start smoking weed when you're in high school and stuff, but then, you get in with the wrong crowds and you get into opioids and painkillers. But, it was pretty easy for me to get off all that. The biggest scar really was things like LSD, you know.
Wow, you did
'Cause it was
LSD when you were
pretty
a
easy for me
teenager?
to get off everything else.
You did LSD when you were a teenager. Is that right?
Yeah, like when I was 14.
My
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, and that's really one of my biggest problems, now with having those experiences as a child, growing up and finding life, figuring it out has been, very difficult.
If you don't mind sharing, what was it like, the experience of LSD as a
You know,
14-year-old?
yeah, for sure. I did it when I had done it before, once, just, and you get these like hallucinations, and that's, what's appealing about it as a child. And then to do it again, when I ventured off to do it again, I took, way too much and had this deep spiritual, experience, out of body, all those things, because I ended up taking just under 10 tabs, which I don't know, for the viewers who don't know, that's a lot. You usually do like one or half of one. So, and, that not being equipped to handle those things as a child. And you don't realize it at the time. You don't realize it even maybe for a year or a couple of years coming out. But as I'm growing up, I realize like not how not ready for those things I was, and how I'm finding life troubling. Just the things of life. Like growing old, and the inevitability of death. It's scary. Not coming to terms with that. Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing you didn't
Just things
OD.
of like,
You took a lot of, you took a lot. I'm really glad you made it through that
yeah,
alive.
yeah,
I've heard some real horror stories. I've seen some real horror stories. Um, I'm
yeah.
glad you're okay. But it
Thank you.
seems that has stuck with you. Seems that you're having a hard time shaking those experiences. Um, I apologize. I'm still unclear on how long you've been clean.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. I got a little sidetracked. Yeah, I kept, smoking weed obviously after that for, a couple years, but 4 years, till the pandemic really hit, because pandemic hit, I got out of high school, um, and I'd be smoking in that, and I'm just staying at home all day, just getting high and stuff. Because I wasn't doing any hard drugs by then either. I cut those out pretty easily, in my teen years, because I just knew where that was going. Didn't want to. I'm very blessed that it was easy for me to shake. But I got off, smoking weed because it just the anxiety and things coming back from those experiences I had. I just couldn't do it anymore, which was disappointing, because before all that stuff, and before I was really starting to struggle with anxiety, it would marijuana would help with my anxiety and stuff like that. So it was pretty disappointing to get off, but yeah, pretty much over a year. I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds about right.
Well, psychedelics show us things about ourselves, about people around us, and if we are not, I'll say it this way: there's way more unhealthy and traumatizing ways to use things like that, including the age when you use it.
Yeah, for sure.
Then there are positive ones. It is almost completely dangerous if you're, especially if you're not prepared, and it doesn't sound like your body was at the place where it was ready for any of that. And
100%.
And I'm just gonna be real straight up with you, because I don't want to beat around the bush here, because this is serious. I, in high school, had a bunch of friends who messed around with drugs. It was around a lot. I was around it a lot. I fortunately didn't get tied up in it. I watched a bunch of my friends just run their brains into the ground and have really hard time getting employed after that. And I do think, I'm not a scientist, and I know the research on where you are is really unclear. Again, I'm just being straight up with you. The research on the effects of abusing drugs at that age is really still unclear, because a lot of these things are still controversial to even study in a lab. So I know there's things you can find by Googling how to detox from things like that. You can find things like that. I'm not going to recommend anything because it's so controversial and I don't want to mess up your life. But I know that there are ways people have found to detox from experiences like that. And I will say one thing that I think is just good for everybody. In fact, I said it to the last caller. Exercise. Do you exercise? Do you exercise hard?
Yeah, recently, especially in the past, couple months, I've been, going for runs and, miles, like long distance running. I've been starting to eat well, stay hydrated, I have a job too, which helps me, I play in a band, which is nice. Just a lot of stuff to help. I've talked to doctors and stuff and have gotten, help with my anxiety as well. I'd like to think that, I take the right steps, to put myself in the best position possible. I guess the suppose of why I called to rant to you today is just the things of, I guess maybe at the age of 15 when I did that, 14 or whatever, I was guess in my teen years probably overloaded with the kind of insight that those kind of drugs can give you. So growing up and going through life as I get older now, it's very troubling. It definitely has worsened my anxiety, about everything as well. So
well, when
I don't know. So sometimes I just it's a struggle for sure.
I hear that. When psychedelics can help form new neural connections, and when you're young, a lot of those neural connections aren't meant to be made yet, and that's why it's so dangerous. I do believe, I guess I should say, I refuse to believe that all people are just automatically, without hope if they've accidentally abused some drugs too young. I would at least like to think that there is things people can do to build their brain back to a positive place. What kinds of exercises are you into?
I'm pretty new to the, whole exercising thing. Like before, I do like a lot of boxing workouts and stuff like a couple of years before, just stay in shape and stuff, like hitting the bags, hitting pads. And now I'm really just running, lifting when I can. I'm still pretty new to it, so I'm just trying to, learn the ropes with that. But mostly running. I really like running and, biking and stuff like that.
How often do you do that? How often do you get your heart rate up?
Probably 2 or 3 times a week. I work 5 days a week, so I just get in there with my friends, when I can.
Okay. Well, that's good. Does that help your anxiety at all when you're feeling anxious to go out on a run or a bike ride or lift some weights?
100%, because a lot of my anxiety is also like hypochondriasis.
Right.
That's a word. So, like staying active kind of makes me feel like, okay, like I'm taking care of my body, eating well, eating fruits and stuff, vegetables, helps me, feel better and reassure myself that I'm taking care of my physical being,
Right. I'm glad. I would say, to put it again very carefully, because we're talking about a lot of really controversial things. That I'm glad you've realized that what you did early on was not the right. It was too much too soon, and I'm glad that you've identified a couple. Destructive. Yeah, I would say it was destructive. You might not have known. You probably didn't know, and I think that's the big problem with psychedelics right now is that. And again, guys, like I know you always say when I say this to a caller, there's always opinions in the chat when I say these kinds of things to callers, but like I'm not anti-psychedelics. And I think that, and that's why I say that on these calls, because that's the problem. The problem is
there's definitely something to be said about medicinal use,
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying.
Just with like any drug.
That's kind of what I'm saying.
Those kind of things are meant for, the developed brain. There's definitely something to be said about, like therapy with, psilocybin.
Well, let me be very clear. Let me be very clear. What I'm saying is we need these things. We need things like this to be able to be studied so that we can learn for people like you who have gone through a traumatic experience with it and have maybe accidentally done too much. We need to know how to help people like you. And right now we don't know because it's illegal to study this stuff. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying we should use it medicinally and it should be all hunky dory. I'm not saying that. Maybe we find that this stuff is horrible for us and no one should be doing it. I doubt we'll find that. But my point is, I struggle with calls like yours because I don't know what's good to recommend or where to point people because it's really controversial. And at the same time, we need these things to be less controversial so that we can know things like this. And I'm acknowledging that I don't know what to tell you, but I'm glad that the exercise helps. That's kind of why I led with that. I would imagine that, our body completely refreshes itself every few years. Like all the skin on your body is not the same skin as it was 5 years ago. It's totally new skin. Our body has a way of recirculating blood and filtering things. Your kidneys filter things. And your body is this complex machine that keeps itself new and healthy as long as it can until it's done. And I've got to I just refuse to believe there's nothing we can do for people in your situation. But right now it's controversial and we don't know. But I'm glad that the exercise helps. Again, that's why I led with that. I would have to believe that because our bodies are the way they are, that exercise would help you get blood pumping And that's what
Yeah.
that's always good. Get fresh blood going, clean yourself out, get some new energy, get that runner's high, whatever it is. Those endorphins, they help you live longer. They're good for you. And I'm glad
To
you
your
called.
point of what you were saying with, how you're like your body regenerates and stuff every couple of years would be completely different. There's definitely something to be said about that. But say with in these certain situations with the brain and these especially so young, they can lay a foundation for how you can think in the future. My question to you is, do you have any advice on how to, I guess, relay groundwork for a more positive outlook on life?
Is it coming from a place of anxiety, or is it you feel unbalanced? Is it you feel confused?
Definitely anxiety.
Feeling anxious.
Definitely anxiety.
Do you feel less anxious after an exercise?
Oh, for sure.
I mean, I think exercise is great. Of course, there's supplements you can take, like lion's mane is great. Reishi is great. I'm a big fan of mushrooms for anxiety, not psychedelic mushrooms, just like, reishi, turkey tail, lion's mane. I've dealt with anxiety in the past and have found really positive results by using those regularly. You don't get immediate results. You got to use it for a few weeks before it's kind of a cumulative effect. But, I would recommend taking, I used to make a little mushroom tea every morning out of reishi, turkey tail, and lion's mane, and it did wonders for me for a long time. I don't need it anymore. I'm fine now. But for a long time, I was really struggling with anxiety.
Glad to hear that.
That, along with some exercise, really helped me. But again, I just want to reiterate that your story is very controversial, and you're going to be, it's going to be hard to find answers on what to do in your case until these things become less controversial.
Certainly.
And I would say keep exercising. Maybe if you feel like you can do more exercise in a way that's not going to be destructive to your body, counterintuitive, maybe do more of that. Make sure you're getting plenty of good supplements. I had a caller laugh at me once for recommending things like vitamin C and B and D and even mushrooms. But these things help, guys. They really do. In fact, extremely high doses of vitamin C have been proven to cure depression and anxiety for like war veterans and stuff. So anybody laughing at that can just read a book. Like, it works. I'm not.
No, I'm
not hocus pocus here. But yeah, I would say maybe do some independent Googling on your own time. I cannot, in good conscience, recommend something to you here about what detox plan to take, but I know there's dozens of them you could look at. And I would just say, if you're asking me for anything, I would say exercise. Make sure you're getting lots of good, like mushrooms are really good for your brain. And again, I'm talking about like supplements, not psilocybin. I'm talking about like the supplements. They're really good for your brain. So I would say if somebody's depressed, you could take the reishi, turkey tail, lion's mane really helped me times like that. Exercise is great. Sunshine, get some sunshine. It's hard to replace some sunshine every day with anything else. So, but I hear
for sure, man.
I hear you motivated for some positive change, and I think that's going to go a long way for you. I think you're going to be. You sound a lot. I'll put it this way: my friends that I referenced earlier that ruined their brains in high school, I think.
Yeah.
I think. And they didn't. They first of all, I will say they didn't all ruin their brains, as far as I know. So some of them are still functioning adults. I know I'm thinking of a couple of people I know that really just didn't do their body very well. But the tone of voice I hear in you is much different from the people I'm thinking of. So I do think there's probably hope, and I think you're probably going to be fine. I'm glad you've got some exercises you like, and you've identified some things that are kind of helping. I would say keep those up, and don't lose hope. Don't give up, because you'll make new neural connections. Your brain's still not done developing. It won't be for a while. So just keep being positive, and keep
Perfect.
Keep up the good work.
And overall, man, I'm more just thankful that you have this platform to be able to, above all, just listen. And so I'm really grateful for that. And and you not being able to, give me anything is, perfectly fine. I'm just grateful that that I can talk to you and you can listen. So, I used to watch you as a child, so that's pretty cool.
Well, I'm glad you called
Thank you.
in.
I really appreciate it.
One more thing. The chat is recommending a sensory deprivation tank, which is not a treatment, but it's great therapy. If you've never tried one, I highly recommend, go into
I'm very interested in that.
go do one
Yeah.
like once a week for like a month and see if that does anything for you. You don't want to do it all the time, but and I don't believe it's
Yeah.
medicine, but it's amazing. It's a very calming experience.
Perfect.
Great recommended date.
Well,
Great suggestion from the chat. Thank you guys.
Hope you have a great rest of your night, Julian. Thank you so much.
Same to you. Thanks for calling. Take care of yourself. Good luck.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. We're going to take the next caller. Man, this new phone system seems to be working great. People seem to know exactly what to do. Seems like a positive change. And the phone lines are much quicker to get to. Here we go. Next caller. Hi, thanks for calling. Hello?
Hello?
Hi, thanks for
Hi.
calling.
Thank you for answering. I'll give you my little rundown, I guess.
Okay.
About a year ago, I got into a pretty terrible car accident on my move out to Los Angeles, and I went out the windshield and broke my back.
Oh, my goodness.
It was midway through my move. I had a brain injury, and I was moving here to work, and I was at the start of a new relationship with somebody who moved out here, or who lived out here, and
Wait,
it was very.
Are you still living in California? If so, I have to toast you.
Oh, yes, I'm still living in California.
Call back and don't give me the location. You're toast. I'm so sorry. I want to hear your story.
What? Oh, no.
Please call back. That caller's toast, guys. I'm sorry. I struggle with what to do on this, and let me tell you why. Because, first of all, that person was toast. Listen, I'm trying not to disguise the voices too much, because whenever you listen to these anonymous call shows, the voice is like lowered by a whole octave. It's really hard to hear what they're saying without subtitles. This is live. It's really hard to do we can't do live subtitles. So actually, I think there might be a way. But as of now, like, if somebody's giving, this will not be anonymous if you say your location or your name. So if you do that, even if you lead with something that sounds really serious, you're going to get toasted. I might take heat for that, but that's all I know to do. So I'm going to revisit the chat and see if they think I've handled that unfairly. I'm sorry if you think I have. To the caller, I please call back, and I want to hear your story, and please leave out all the details if you can about your personally identifying information. I hope everybody's okay with how I handled that. Goodness. Taking the next caller. Hi, thanks for calling. Hello?
Hi.
Hi, thanks for calling.
I was the one who called earlier and got disconnected.
Oh, okay, great. I'm glad you made it back in. So you were the one that had the body image issues, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you, I'm trying to remember where we left off. I remember you...
I don't remember because I wasn't there.
So
I
what
can't remind you.
What else was there? What would make this a helpful call for you?
I'm trying to remember where we left off. I know that where we were getting to, I was definitely feeling a lot of help. And it was like right when I was getting there is when it cut off. And I was like, wow, that's just my luck. I don't know. I guess, I don't know if you have any advice or just other suggestions to kind of encapsulate everything that we had talked about, and kind of just put it to a close, because I feel like we were nearing the end before, but just how to get out of the funk of, still viewing myself in this way. And also, I mean, I know in previous lives, I know you kind of mentioned just, and correct me if I'm remembering wrong, but like some estrangement from your family, and I guess I kind of could use some advice on how to deal with just being so different from my family and how to fit in and not let it affect me as much as it is.
Yeah. Well, it's a great question. You might not fit in. You might not be appreciated by your family. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes there's no place for you in your family. Um, if I remember, you're estranged from your father, but not your mother. Is that right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. How's your...
My mom and I we're working on it. We do currently have like a kind of rocky relationship.
Do you have good boundaries with your mom? I mean, boundaries are the key for that. If you don't have, if your mom doesn't know what's off limits, if your mom doesn't know where your capacity to relate ends, then you're begging for a overstepping relationship. They're not going to know where the boundaries are.
I've tried to set boundaries. I don't think, and this is probably going to sound like I'm joking, but I mean this genuinely. I don't think they understand the concept of boundaries and like where the line is in that. If I'm saying like this is my boundary, that this is actually my boundary.
Could your mom have a personality disorder?
I am not sure. I don't want to make a guess on something like that. But what I can say is that after everything that happened with my dad, I know that she definitely has some trauma and stuff there that I know she needs to work through. But, I can't get her into therapy or anything like that. It's something she's got to, do herself.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that she's got stuff that she needs to work through. I don't know of anything like specific though. Like anything like specifically like if she's never been diagnosed with anxiety or anything like that is what I mean.
Right. Well, the only reason I asked is because I'm trying to gauge if I know I have a lot of experience with people with personality disorders, and a lot of them don't. A lot of the ones with the I guess I should distinguish the kinds of personality disorders I'm talking about, because I guess I should have said, like, could she be a psychopath? Which it doesn't sound like it would have been any more helpful of a question because you don't know. But my point was that psychopaths don't understand boundaries, and that's what you said to me that prompted the question. You said it might sound silly, but my mom doesn't seem to understand boundaries, and that didn't sound silly to me at all. It sounded like a psychopath. But I respect your answer, because I think people throw that word around. I think it's respectable that you're not throwing that word around and that you're very careful to say something you don't know. I sense your dilemma. I'm not. If they don't have you tried? Go ahead.
I was going to say, are you familiar at all with like the Myers-Briggs personality typing system?
Yes.
Okay, so the easiest way I can explain this is using that. My mom and my entire family, they are all sensors.
Okay.
And I, with the exception of my younger brother, who's also ADHD, but my whole family is a sensor, and I am the only intuitive. Like everyone is very tangible. They see things a certain way, and I'm the only one who's more creative and sees the possibilities and ideas and things. And they don't think like me or understand how I think. And so to them, a lot of my boundaries or requests or whatnot are just like, come on, like seriously, like why are you being dramatic, And on the other side of that, they also don't quite understand what I went through, and they don't understand why I have PTSD and the things I go through, because I mean, like I said earlier, I was groomed, and out of all of my siblings, I'm the oldest, and so I essentially was my father's favorite, and I got treated differently from the rest of them. So no one in my family knows what I went through. Nobody understands it, and I don't get a lot of grace from my family oftentimes if I'm having a rough moment, or like, I mean, I've had a panic attack before and just got yelled at by my family because I was having a panic attack.
Which family members? Your mom?
it's it was my mom in that specific situation, yeah. But and it's tough because I genuinely, like, I just think they don't understand. Like, they don't get it. They just see things the one type of way, and they don't understand how or why I'm different when everyone in my family fits in, and I don't.
Right. Well, if you're unclear whether you're dealing with a psychopath or not, I too want to be very careful in recommending. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and recommend you become estranged from your mom too if we don't know that. Even if I did know that, I wouldn't recommend doing it, because that's not a decision you make on an hour-long phone call. I mean, we would have been on the phone for about an hour now if we hadn't been disconnected. For me, and of course you know that because you've been estranged from your father for a decade now, if I remember. But the point being, that's a very slow decision. That's a very careful decision that should not be made quickly. And
Right.
so I wouldn't just recommend something like that. But one
I
thing.
will say, sorry, not to cut you off. I will, just for context, after the situation I mentioned earlier with the panic attack, I did distance myself because I was like, no, we're not doing this. And so, but my goal has been to get back to a healthy place ever since then, because I don't want to be estranged. I believe that deep down I do have a good family, and they love me and they care about me. They just don't know how to do it properly.
Mm-hmm.
And so the last thing I want to do is completely become estranged from them as well, because I know that they really do have the best intentions. It's just a matter of they don't understand.
Right.
So I did want to interject that there, that I have kept my distance a bit already.
Well, I want to recommend 2 books to you because it sounds like you're trying to figure this out. We've had a lot of callers that have been trying to determine similar things to you, specifically about parents. It's really interesting. But there's 2 books that have been very helpful for me. One is called Should I Stay or Should I Go? Which is a book specifically about narcissists and divorcing a narcissist. But for me, I found it really helpful, just generally, not specific to divorce. Should I stay or should I go? Goodreads. I'm going to send you the Goodreads link here.
Okay.
I think this for you to read. There's an amazing. There's a fairly good audiobook on this if you're not a good reader. I'd recommend reading it so you can see it. But there is a fairly good audiobook. The narration of the audiobook is stellar. It's read by the author, Dr. Ramani Deversala. But the audio quality isn't the best. I'm not sure if that matters to you. That's my review of Should I Stay or Should I Go, the audiobook. So I'll put this in the chat for you. Should I stay or should I go? And this book, like I said, really helped me at several points in my life. And then there's another book called Psychopath Free that I believe this is the book. I get it mixed up when I'm talking about these because they're very similar books and I read them at the same exact time. So I often forget which book has this questionnaire in it, but I'm pretty sure it's Psychopath Free that has a questionnaire. It's either this one or the other one. A questionnaire. It's like a little 30-question quiz that has yes or no questions. And depending on your answers, you tally up your score at the end. And if you get 21 yeses, then you are most likely dealing with a psychopath. And if you get 25 yeses, then the book claims you are certainly dealing with a psychopath. And these can be helpful things to know when you're dealing with potentially what to do with a family member, for example. Like that's a really serious decision. So I'm putting these for you in the chat. There might be some typos because I'm typing quickly here and trying to talk. I apologize if there's typos. But those are some Goodreads links where you can read reviews from other people who've read it and what they've gotten out of it. And I hope that will be helpful for you.
Yeah. I guess my last question for you in terms of like advice, because my goal ultimately is to save my relationships as much as possible. I mean, but my biggest struggle is just, I mean, I feel like I don't fit in, and it causes me to like shut down, and that's an aspect of my PTSD, is I really struggle with dissociating and
Right.
Shutting down. And so my biggest issue now when it comes to like fixing these relationships in my family is that I know I can't anticipate how someone is going to be, but I can't really help it. It's something I'm working on, but it's my PTSD. I don't have a choice in the matter. I just shut down. And so I'm trying to figure out how to I'm struggling with how to word this, but, reconnect when I have, 21 years in my head of just being told that I'm all these things that, I'm not. But I still struggle with my identity and who I am because I've been told these things.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm following. You, if I understand, you are struggling with both the PTSD and these unhelpful labels you grew up with. And between those two elements, you're struggling to fit in with your family.
Right, exactly. And that's the biggest thing that I think they don't understand when it comes to, boundaries, and then just also understanding me in general, is they don't get PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
They don't understand that it's just as much physical, for me at least, as it is emotional. And I don't have control of when I now that I don't have control of myself, I don't get to choose when I dissociate or when I have a panic attack, and so I don't get a lot of patience or grace when it comes to these things. And so I'm trying to figure out, I guess, how to be aware that this is how they are and to be okay with it, or not necessarily okay, but just like have my own boundaries in place. Like, okay, I can't expect this of them. And if I want to have a relationship, I need to just be okay with it.
Have you tried some kind of group meeting with your family where you sit everybody down, you call a meeting, say, there's something I want to talk about, it's very important to me, it'll take an hour, might take 2 hours, you can ask any questions you want, but I just want 2 hours with my family because I care about you guys and our relationship, and then use that as a launching pad to openly share how you feel, not in a judgmental way, but in a way that just gets some conversation happening about how you're different from them and how, as you put it, you score differently on various personality tests and than they do, and your PTSD is something they don't understand, and that they have got to learn to appreciate that and factor that into your relationship. I bet if they heard you very calmly, very respectfully describe to them how it feels to be in that relationship from your perspective, not in a judgmental way, but in just an experiential way, in a way where you say, I want to have a more intimate relationship with you guys. I want to regain what we lost. I want new things with you guys, and I feel like a stranger in this relationship sometimes, and I'm not sure how to have a meaningful relationship with you guys in this way without feeling better understood.
I have tried to kind of do something like that before. It didn't really work. I will say my mom and I have gone to a couple counseling sessions together.
That's good.
And I'm hopeful, but I'm also trying not to get my hopes up that there will be changes. And so I guess also, an element of this is if the change doesn't happen, how do I move forward without, losing them altogether?
Well,
how do I move forward with our relationship?
Nobody can promise you that any relationship will work out long term, of course. But um, all we can do is be honest. I mean, that's what a relationship is. A relationship is two people relating to one another. And there's a lot of one-sided relationships. Those aren't relationships. A one-sided relationship is not a relationship because it takes two people relating. And if they're not relating to you, I'd say that's not a relationship. And
Yeah.
I guess I'm hedging a little bit because I haven't heard from you that you're ready to give up on that relationship, that you believe there might still be some hope. So I'm kind of hesitating telling you to or recommending any specific action. I'm recommending a couple books that might help you make that decision. I've recommended maybe some kind of open forum with your family where they can ask you anything and you guys can talk for a couple hours. Yeah, I remember earlier before we got disconnected, I asked if you tried sharing with your mom one-on-one, but I don't think we talked about like a group meeting with your family. I think that could be a good way to, you know, it's a little less intense if it's just one-on-one. If you call your mom, you're like, hey, we got to talk about some stuff. Like that might come across like she might think you're about to accuse her of some stuff. You know, like if it's everybody, then it seems a little less loaded. It seems maybe like people might be more open to. It doesn't seem like so much of a like anybody's going to be accused of anything. That's why I'm saying that might be helpful. But I don't, without knowing more, I would be curious what your counselor would say about this too. Have you talked about this with your counselor? I seem to remember you having a counselor that you liked.
Yeah. He actually did the counseling session with me and my mom. So I know we are going to plan to have kind of like a family session at some point also.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say it went really good doing it with him and doing just me and my mom. And so we're going to attempt to do a family one. I guess my biggest fear is honestly most specifically one of my brothers. I know I mentioned one who also has ADHD. Not him, another brother I have who is he's polar opposite to me. He's very organized, very structured. Things must be done a certain way. And he is honestly the biggest source of tension in my family because he has no lacks. Like everything has to be a certain way. And he just cannot wrap his head around, that I'm different. And he's a very passive aggressive person. He's very, he can be rude. And honestly, that's a huge source of tension with my mom is because, my brother will just verbally say some of the worst things you can say to someone, and my mom won't stick up for me, and she'll just let him do it. And so I think that's honestly my biggest fear going into that, and kind of also why my question is, like, how do I salvage something? Because it's really tough. Because, with my family, we're dealing with a lot of different people. And, I guess there's no way to determine if everyone will be willing to compromise.
How many different people are you talking about?
I have 3 younger siblings. I have a good relationship with my youngest brother. But then I have my 2 other siblings, my mom, and then my grandma.
Yeah,
so I guess that's 4.
That's a wide audience, sounds like.
Right.
Yeah, I can understand why that would be scary. You got some scary stuff to talk about. You're alone in your experience. You've named a number of different labels you've been given in different kinds of therapy. You mentioned PTSD, I believe. I could look at the list here that you gave me. OCD, ADHD. Your father, you believe, was a narcissist. That's a lot. And if your family doesn't understand those things, there's nothing you can do to make them outside of just sharing with them what it's like to be you. One caller Sorry, someone in the chat, Nate Wilson, says, tell her honestly, I think he means your mom, tell her honestly you are having a hard time knowing how to communicate with her and ask for ways it could be easier. Yeah, that might be a slightly less direct way of going about it if you're nervous. But if you're asking me, I'm a very direct person. I believe in, there's a thing called, I actually kind of hate this name because it sounds so insulting, but psychologists call this effective communication. It sounds like a dig on people. It sounds like they don't know how to talk right or something. Like, it's so condescending, I think. But it's true. There's some truth to it. Like, there's communication, and then there's communicating in ways that yield results. And there's a lot of, I don't think it's because people are stupid that there's a lot of bad communication. I think it's that communication has become so convenient in the digital age. You can just send a text message and people don't even check to see if stuff's capitalized or punctuated or if there's typos. And like the recipient is always deciphering between like typos. And people are so sloppy. And it's just totally like, I think there probably is a need for some kind of, for this term effective communication today, but it just seems so insulting to me. But my point is that like, sounds like what's missing is maybe some of that effective communication, describing how you feel in a way that is not accusatory, nonviolent. In fact, that's another great book, Nonviolent Communication, that I've recommended to a lot of callers. Nonviolent Communication is a great book. But communicating in a way where I'm going to plug that book in the chat. I don't know if you want to read it. It doesn't sound like that's your issue, but it might help if you're struggling with forming words. And it sounds like you're really scared to tell your family how you feel. So the book might help you.
Honestly, it's more so, and in my therapy and counseling, personally, I feel like I've learned really good communication, and I'm really good about like using I statements and trying not to be accusatory. And, I personally feel like I am good at that. I think our biggest issue is that I am relatively direct when this is our issue, this is how I'm feeling, and everyone else in my family likes to sweep it under the rug.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like they instead of forgive and forget, it's forget and forgive. Like, we don't talk about anything, and I'm not like that. I can't just sweep things under the rug. I wish I could, but I can't, and I have to address things head on. And so it's tough when I do. I'm like, hey, can we talk about this? Can we come up with a solution? And they're just like, no. Like, we don't need to talk about it.
Well, it sounds like you are still trying to determine if something can be salvaged from this relationship. Of course, I can't tell you that. I don't know your family, but I'm happy to spitball with you and hear your story and empathize a bit. I've highlighted some things that have come to my attention and from the chat. And I would love to hear an update from you saying that, hey, like XYZ happened, we got together and talked and it went a lot better than I thought it was going to. Or, I found out that even if it's horrible news, that like you found out that you were dealing with people that were never going to understand you, people, with some kind of psychopathy or something. I would hate to hear that you're going to lose both parents to that. I think it's really respectable and admirable of you that you would fight for your family in this way and for so long. I think if I can leave you with any hope, I would say that I have peace from this call, knowing that you're not going to just be reckless with that relationship, that you're going to take time to make very educated, informed boundaries or fight to make the relationship more a relationship. It doesn't sound like much of a relationship right now, and I'm really sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Well, I will say I'm in the Discord now, so I will definitely give y'all an update when it comes. And I appreciate your time. It was actually really helpful to me, and it was helpful to talk about it because, I do have a therapist and a counselor, and I appreciate them and all the help they've given me. The stuff about my own personality and, body image issues, it's tough to talk about because it's so easy, when I talk about it before, people can actually see me and they actually know me, and so it's so easy to be like, oh, you're beautiful, or you're this, and I'm like, I don't want to be told that. Because I don't really need reassurance, because you can tell me this all day and I still struggle with it. So this was really helpful. So thank you.
I'm glad that you feel a little better. I do want to reiterate that you do sound like a beautiful person, and you know, I don't know what you look like, but to me that doesn't matter. I think that everybody's beautiful in their own way, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder. People are attracted to different things, and what's attractive to one person is not going to be the same for the other person. The reason I use that word beautiful is because you have proven throughout this entire conversation that you care so deeply about this family of yours, who some of them have not been very considerate of your experience. And I'm not saying that there's no hope when I say that. I'm not suggesting that they're spiteful people or something. Maybe they just don't know. And the fact that you're fighting for the relationship says loads about your character. And so I maintain that you are a beautiful person, and I hope you keep fighting that good fight.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care of yourself. Thanks again for calling. Call again anytime.
Yeah. Have a good night.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys, another wonderful stream. To that previous caller that I toasted, I was truly and deeply, I'm still like, that is the hardest part of this format to me, because the second I let that slide, then it's impossible to keep that up. And then I've got to draw that line somewhere. This is an anonymous show. So please, to all the callers, if you call in, please be very careful to read all of the instructions we have here to protect your own anonymity. It's not just for you. It's also to let everybody here feel safe and know that this is a place where we are going to be ruthlessly protecting their identities. Again, keep in mind, not everybody's calling in for the same reason. We have a lot of people at their wits' end. And to some people, knowing that this is a place where we will protect their anonymity and not sit around and collect personal information, that's very important. And so it's not just for the individual callers, it's also for the group as a whole. And I hope that makes sense. I hope the chat agrees that I wasn't too off base with that one. That was a really hard one for me. I'm really sorry. I missed 3 or 4 super chats from Skadger earlier. Skadger, you are so generous. Thank you so much. There was never a good time for me to call those out. I'm so sorry. And then I kept forgetting in between the calls, but I did see those. It's hard for me to call those out in the middle of a call, of course. But thank you, Skadger, for those super chats. You're very generous, and love that you're a part of this community. Thank you to all of our volunteers in this community. We now have, I guess, I think we have about 8 or 9 people volunteering their time between the mods and the admins and the Discord, people modding here. And this is just turning into a beautiful community of people that want to just be there for each other. Again, this is developing into something where, as it becomes profitable, it's generated 0 profit yet. But as it becomes profitable, the goal is to donate 15% of profits to charities and helplines, different ones each month, to kind of pay it forward. And the goal is to grow this show to the extent where that percentage can grow as the show grows, so that we can just be a very positive force in this space. So thank you to all who are giving their time here for that effort. And check out our Discord, which has become a great community of people. And lastly, just a quick reminder that if you're interested in life coaching with me, I will be doing a very small number of sessions for very specific cases. I'm not going to do it for everybody because I want to ease into this, see if it's something that I feel is positive. I'm going to be very discerning with this and very careful to not, I want to hear why you want life coaching and for what issues you think it would be helpful, so that I can know if I think it's something I would actually be able to walk with you through. If you're interested in that, the email address is in the video description. I'll flash it up here real quick, just on the screen so it's there, but probably easiest to find it in the video description. Send me an email with a description of what you're going through and what you feel you need support through, and we will talk about what that would look like. And with that, another great stream. Thank you guys so much for being here. Take care of yourselves. And I will see you guys back here on Tuesday at 9 p.m. Central. We do these Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. And I'm always looking forward to them. Thanks again for being there for the callers tonight. And I'll see you guys now Tuesdays tomorrow. See you guys tomorrow. See you then.